Ah, yes, Friday, drive time. Congratulations, weekend time. You made it. Happy Friday. Beautiful day, man. It's like 70, 72 degrees and sunny here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. And we are going to have a beautiful weekend of weather. So if you didn't get online a week ago at 8 a.m., you didn't get a tea time because that's how it works now. But maybe you're going hiking. Maybe you're going to get on the bike, walk the dog, do something to enjoy this unbelievable outdoor haven that we have here at our disposal as residents of this great state. Hello, how are you? It's good to have you along for the ride. My name is Spence Checketts, hosting the show today. Porter Larson behind the glass, producing, booking the show. We got a jam-packed, busy show, a big night tonight here locally as the Utah Mammoth will attempt to keep their postseason alive with an 8 o'clock drop of the puck at the Delta Center against the Golden Knights. Of course, Vegas leads that series 3-2. The margins have been razor thin. The Mammoth have had a lead in all 5 games. Got to close out quarters, got to close out games. I should say got to close out periods. There's 3 of them, hence they're not quarters. Got to close out periods better. Got to close out games better, and we'll see if they can get it done tonight. We're going to get to some Mammoth football in the program today. Did you know that 8 NFL teams opened up a rookie minicamp today, including the Vegas Raiders? So Fernando Mendoza is going to start to get some work in with his new football team. The latest on the private equity deal in the Big 12. Did a little digging on this last night, and I'm ready to say right off the bat, this is a bad idea for, I think, any school. Now, if you're strapped for cash, that's one thing, but we're going to get into it on the show today. And I'm going to tell you why I think Utah needs to steer clear. Now, BYU is on record. Brian Santiago is on record saying that BYU will never be in the private equity business because they don't have to be, because they are bankrolled by a very rich organization in and of itself. But the deal has been passed as far as the voting from the folks that need to vote on such things. So we'll get into it on the show today, and I'll give you some thoughts. I don't think Utah's going to go near it. I don't think they should. Too many unknowns in the landscape of the future of mainly college football, but collegiate athletics altogether. So we'll get to some of that on the show today. I'll tell you what, home a little late last night, so I missed the start of the Knicks-Hawks game. When I checked the score, when I got in my car, Atlanta was ahead 11-9. And then at the end of the first quarter, it was 40-15. The Knicks went on a 67-15 run and it eliminated Quinn Snyder and the Atlanta Hawks last night. The Boston Celtics are on the ropes. Jason Tatum had to leave the game in the third quarter with a leg injury. And the Philadelphia 76ers, when healthy, are a dangerous basketball team. And now we got a Game 7 at the Garden after Philly took care of their business at home last night, and it really wasn't very close. Boston needed a little bit of a late fourth quarter spurt to even pull into a respectable range. 106-93 was the score. And how about a little love for our guy, Rudy Gobert? Rudy Gobert finally getting his flowers from some circles of pro basketball where, for whatever reason, people don't want to give him credit. You got to call it how it is. Rudy Gobert affected that series probably more so than any other individual player, and the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic are going home. Penny for the thoughts of Michael Malone, the new head coach at North Carolina, after the Nuggets decided to move on from him. And ultimately, you got to give the Timberwolves a lot of credit, man. So they're moving on. Second round. Denver is out. A lot of people thought Denver was going to win the championship this year. I believe Howard Beck, our good buddy from The Ringer, picked them to win the championship this year. And we move over to some must-win games tonight. The Orlando Magic will try to eliminate the Detroit Pistons. Doesn't happen much with an 8-1 matchup. In fact, Detroit's only the third team all time to win 60 games and find themselves down 3-2 in the first round of the playoffs. So Magic will try to get that done at the Kia Center tonight in Orlando, Florida. The Raptors will try to draw even with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that series heads back north up to Toronto. And then we'll see what happens late night style. Well, not too late, 7:30 Mountain Time on Prime Video with the Lakers and the Rockets. Kevin Durant will not play once again. The Rockets at home trying to force a Game 7. And they were down 3-0 at one point in the series. And I'll remind you, the stat that we all hear every year, teams that go down 3-0 in pro basketball are 0-160. It has never happened So Houston trying to do something spectacular, trying to make some miracles happen. We'll get to some NBA playoff storylines on the program today. We got a busy weekend ahead in the world of soccer. RSL hosts Portland coming up for a 2:45 kick tomorrow afternoon in Sandy. Weather looks beautiful. If you got nothing to do, go to rsl.com if there are tickets available. That place has been packed all year, though. And then the Utah Royals, who have won 3 straight matches and are tied for second in the NWSL, they're going to welcome in L.A. for a Saturday kick at 6:45. That game can be seen on ION. If you know what ION is, then you're smarter than I am. All right, good guest list today, Friday afternoon style. Dave McMiniman, celebrity reporter, pays $180 for a haircut. He'll join us. I would imagine Dave is in Los Angeles for the Lakers-Rockets game today. Our buddy Adrian Denny will give us a comprehensive Game 6 preview for the Mammoth tonight. What do they need to do to extend this series to 7 games, maybe head back to Vegas and win Game 7? Random stat I read earlier today. In the history of the NHL postseason, teams that are down 3-2 win 20% of the time. That's a massive number. So the Mammoth's still very much alive in this thing. We'll see what Adrian Denny has to say about the potential of them getting the win tonight. Pablo Mastroeni, head coach, Real Salt Lake, will try not to hone in entirely on the rough officiating stretch that the lads have received as of late, because you know we're here for the lads. But I would imagine Pablo has some thoughts. Kurt Schmidt, clearly very frustrated about it. He joined the program this week to vent just a little bit, so we'll bring in our guy Pablo today. The PGA Tour is at the Cadillac Championship, and Paul Pugmire will stop by to talk about that tournament. Cameron Young, man, that kid's playing some golf. He's 12 under par. He's got a 4-stroke lead over Nick Taylor, 5-stroke lead over Jordan Spieth and Matt McCarty. Alex Fitzpatrick, good for this kid. After getting his tour card, he's 6 under par. So he's 6 back, but he's tied for 6th. So good stuff there. Really cool seeing those Fitzpatrick brothers win that tournament last week. So we'll bring in Paul to talk some golf, latest on the local golf scene as well. I'll complain about not being able to get tee times, then complain about playing 6-hour rounds. So stay tuned for that. I know that's appointment radio for you guys. Dave McMiniman, Adrian Denny, Pablo Mastroeni, Paul Pugmire, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. How much of the Knick game, Porter Larson, did you end up watching?
I had to check out. I mean, it was fun, but what was it, a 61-point lead at one point? The first time an NBA team has led by 61 points in a game in playoff history. So I opted to watch another issue I'm having with the NBA is that we're having overlapping games, like way overlapping games in the playoffs. Figure it out. Also, they're on some Peacock or whatever. Anyway, I had to opt out of some of the Knicks game because it was in hand with 20+ minutes to go. But that being said, as a Knicks fan, I am happy with their performance and a little less worried and concerned about them in round 1.
So my plan was to have the Knick game on the TV, then the Celtics 76er game on the laptop. And
right.
as I said, after the show, I had to run over to KUTV to dust some things up. So I was a little bit late. I hop in the car, I get a score alert, and it's Atlanta 11, New York 9. I'm like, all right, close early on. I get home, it was 40-15 at the end of the first quarter. I'm like, what the hell happened? I can't imagine our guy Quinn Snyder enjoyed that very much. So we'll get to some NBA playoff conversation on the program today. Of course, get you ready for the Mammoth game tonight. Do a little RSL, a little golf. Again, 8 teams in the NFL open up rookie minicamp. A lot of college football storylines to get to as well. On a Friday afternoon, our first guest will be Dave McMiniman. My guest is live in Los Angeles. But before Dave stops by, courtesy of our friends at IFA Country Stores, let's get to your opening tip on a Friday. With IFA's Weed and Feed, you'll grow strong, healthy, dark green turf without a weed in sight. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move, now at IFA.coop or at one of your local stores today. Okay, going to bounce around, get to a couple of different things here. We're going to start with a few more thoughts on the news that broke via Yahoo Sports and Ross Dellinger that the Big 12 has consummated this private equity deal, okay? So the league's presidents and chancellors ratified the 5-year agreement with Redbird last week, and then Weatherford Capital is also involved. And as we've discussed, they're kind of describing this as a three-pronged approach. Number one is an instant infusion of $12.5 million to the league, okay? So the league is getting $12.5 million right away. What they're saying they're going to use that for is to drive commercial development and business growth. These vague business terms are just like, we're just going to figure out what to do with this $12.5 million. And then, of note for our local schools and our local football programs, every team in the Big 12, all 16 teams in the Big 12, have an offer to opt in to what's being described as a capital credit line of $30 million each. So as I said yesterday, when I read that, okay, my antenna went up a little bit, all right? So what the league is describing is if you want to opt into this capital credit line of $30 million, it'll create a strategic business partnership that could pay off when the conference next goes to market for its media rights contract. This feels like a payday loan for universities and football programs. It feels like a payday loan where, like, if you're broke and you go to one of those dollar stores or whatever, you're like, hey, I'm getting paid in 2 weeks, so can you hook me up with a couple grand? They're like, yeah, sure, here's $2,000. Then in 2 weeks, you got to pay him like $3,000 or whatever that is. This reeks of a little bit of a dollar loan store situation for college athletic departments and schools and football programs specifically. Okay, so we'll continue just to describe it the way the Big 12 is kind of getting the message out. So the Big 12 describes the deal as the, quote, Redbird Business Development Partnership. In a way, it's what Utah, well, we still don't have the final details. And ultimately, my final kind of take on this entire thing is predicated on understanding more once the public is able to get access to the Utah Athletics Otro Capital deal, just to kind of understand exactly what that looks like. So Big 12 describing the deal, Redbird Business Development Partnership, just like Utah's doing with kind of this new side company they've created with Otro Capital, with whatever the infusion of money is going to look like. And then they're going to utilize that money, as we've talked about. And these are just guesses based off of just kind of knowing how this stuff works with private equity and sports, of course. The money will probably be used for a few different things. Service some debt is the first order of business, as I understand it. They've already announced renovations of the Huntsman Center. And I would imagine at some point, Rice-Eccles Stadium is going to get a facelift and is going to look a little bit different. As I discussed yesterday, there's a good chance that your concessions will be improved. And man, at the Huntsman Center, they've needed that for years. I mean, I'm good with a stale hot dog and flat Diet Coke. Let's get something else in there. So you're going to have better concession options. You're probably going to have luxury bunker suites. And then, of course, what's going to happen after that? They're going to charge you more for your consumer experience because, once again, if you get in bed with a private equity company, on the back end of the deal, they expect one thing and one thing only, and that's their money. That's their return, their ROI, their profit. Okay, that's what they want. I can promise you Otro Capital is not concerned about the sanctity of the Utah football program and making sure that Utah athletics is kept in this beacon of light situation up on a hill that we all love so much. They don't give a rip about that. How can we make money off of our initial investment is all they care about. And if we're clear, that's all Redbird cares about as well. And it's the only thing that Weatherford Capital gives a rip about, okay? They're not looking to preserve the Big 12 footprint in this era of college athletics. They don't care. So, again, Redbird Business Development Partnership is what the Big 12 is describing this. And some of this, it's like word salad, mundane word salad, vagaries that don't seem to mean much. As part of their, quote, Collegiate Athletic Solutions Partnership, the firms are co-investing the infusion into the conference with an expected return, of course. However, the capital partners will hold no ownership in the league, and the deal will not change the operation or governance at a conference, Brett Yormark told Yahoo Sports. Lies, not true. Even if there's not anything on paper where they officially have equity, if they're giving you this kind of cash, they want to know how they're going to see their return later on. This isn't a $12.5 million check or a $30 million capital credit line. We're like, all right, we'll talk to you in 2031 when you do your media deal. That's not how these things work. It's not how it's going to work with Utah and Otro Capital. They will have say in their investment because that's how it goes down. So this is Yormark doing some damage control, and I get it. But the vote went through from everybody, presidents and chancellors, okay, finalized this agreement that's been in discussion now for a couple of years, as we've discussed. So one of the things that Dellinger kind of digs into, the benefits of the deal is, quote, exclusive college partnership with Redbird, a New York-based investment management firm with $15 billion in assets and an array of companies within its portfolio, including Paramount Global. So what could that mean potentially for a future media rights deal? Okay, now Paramount, of course, holds ownership of CBS, and the rumors are it's going to acquire TNT, two of the leading broadcast partners within the college sports ecosystem. So the Big 12's current media deal, okay, and this is probably the most key element of all of this, because as I referenced earlier, the infusion of capital, the private equity companies are expecting their return during the next round of media negotiations, okay? So as we look at this, the Big 12's current media deal is mostly owned by ESPN and Fox, and that ends in 2031, okay? And, of course, in this day and age, it's not just college football, but media rights deals counts for the majority of revenue distributed to teams in the pros and schools in college. We've talked about the seismic $72 billion TV deal in pro basketball and why that's allowed them to kind of put up a smokescreen for most of the issues that everybody thinks they have. But more from Yormark. He's, quote, we did the necessary due diligence in order to land in a great place. I appreciate the board and athletic directors for all of their feedback and guidance and support in times of uncertainty. Redbird provides us with incredible bench strength. Okay, so if we look at this through a couple of different prisms, here's what concerns me the most. And if I had to guess, maybe 2 or 3 teams in the Big 12 will accept this option of this $30 million credit line. Okay, I don't think Utah's going to do it. I know BYU will not. All schools have 1 year to make a decision on the one-time capital infusion. So if you don't take it in a year, it's gone. And a lot of people in the conference believe that maybe between 2 to 6 programs plan to take the money, and the interest rate on the $30 million is nearly 11%. That's a big chunk, man. It's a lot of money. So here to me is the bottom line, though. What they're saying here is that we're going to give you the money now, and when you go to market for your next media rights deal, and look, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes because Paramount is a major player here, and maybe the Big 12 can strike a deal with Paramount, who, like I said, owns CBS and is about to acquire TNT. Maybe that's the future plan here, and maybe that's already something that's going to be put in place. The bottom line for me is this. In 5 years, when the media rights deal goes to market, what will the Big 12 have to offer? Now, to be very clear, nobody knows. I don't know. I have no idea. But we're all still, at least I am, and I've admitted this, I still am so bummed out that the Pac-12 conference went away. I was such a bigger fan of the Pac-12 conference than I'll ever be of the Big 12 conference, and part of that are the cities that were in the footprint, all the fun trips that we were able to take when Utah was in the Pac-12. I mean, the Pac-12 experience is so much better than the Big 12 experience. I'm sorry for folks that are Big 12 hawks. I'm not a conference hawk. I never really have been, because these things don't last. Again, the Pac-12 footprint, the cities, LA, Portland, Seattle, Bay Area, so many great places, Palo Alto, that we were able to visit when Utah was in the Pac-12. But the Pac-12 still exists. For those of you that don't know, I mean, Utah State fans know. The reimagined Pac-12. What's appealing about the new Pac-12 conference when it comes to media rights? Because that's the bottom line. I mean, a Pac-12 conference with SC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington and Utah, Stanford, keep going. It's a valuable conference, which is what makes the unbelievable fall from grace and unbelievably stupid leadership from first Larry Scott, then George Kliavkoff. How did you let that thing expire? It still baffles me, and it will always baffle me, and honestly, it will always bum me out. Now, Utah found a safe landing spot, so we're supposed to be nice. Thank you, Big 12, all that stuff. But do you really think the Big 12 is going to be around in 2031 the way that it is now? It might be. I'm not saying it's for sure that it won't be. But, okay, I just named the old Pac-12. Okay, the cities, the footprints, the schools. The new Pac-12 is Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, a lot of states, San Diego State, Utah State, Texas State, Gonzaga, a non-football member, of course, great basketball program. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of these schools, and certainly my friends up north at Utah State. What sort of television deal, if you go to market with this group, can you get compared to what you would have been able to get if you would have acted right with those other big markets? And there are just far too many people embedded in the ecosystem of college football specifically, but college athletics, that do believe at some point college football will look exactly like the NFL does, with two conferences comprised of, 20 teams each, or whatever that number is. Big Ten, SEC, have you noticed that they're making all of the decisions that permeate through, P4, P2, but P4 football is being led and dominated by the decision makers in the Big Ten and in the SEC. And of course, they're in bed with the TV companies, and that's why ESPN has such a heavy lean towards covering the SEC and the Big Ten. And if we're honest, the best football is played there anyway. You can get mad at me for that, but that's just my opinion. Several data points, including NFL draft picks and teams that win national championships. And yes, I know you're going to yell like, hey, the Big 12 doesn't get access. Well, look, if we're honest, the best football is always played in the Big Ten, and more often than not in the SEC. There are reasons why the Big 12 isn't on their level and never will be. So and Brett Yormark has to dance this dance a little bit because he can talk tough about, hey, we're the Big 12 and I'm from the Northeast and you can't mess with me. All right, you've got to be careful because you actually have to play nice with these other two power brokers in your sandbox, with the SEC and the Big Ten, because you do not want them to break away. The last thing the Big 12 wants, or the ACC or whatever, the last thing that you want are those conferences to say, oh, really? You want to flex on me? All right, well, we're gone. We're taking our ball and we're starting our own thing, because that will become the future of college football, and they will eat the majority of the live TV revenue. Is there going to be some left over? Of course. I mean, we're seeing that. It's an attention economy now, and the reimagined Big 12 in this hypothetical situation would probably be able to go to market and get something. But what if they can't get what they're hoping to get in order to make this right with private equity? If that's the case, guess what? Private equity has their tentacles in your university, your distributions. They're going to do everything they can within their legal bounds and their billions of dollars in their bank account to get what they were asking for early on, no matter how that happens. I think if you're Utah, you run the other way. I think there's already some concern, quite frankly, about this Otro Capital deal. I don't think you need your tentacles involved with any other private equity company, not even kind of. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it transpires. We'll get back to this, but let's do some NBA coming up on the other side with Dave McMenamin. And then it's Adrian Denny, Pablo Mastroeni, and Paul Pugmire. Busy Friday show. Keep it right here. Money ESPN 700. No team in NBA history has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit, but the Houston Rockets can force a Game 7 tonight if they win against the LA Lakers. My guess is Dave McMenamin is live in Houston. Yes, Dave, is that right?
You are guessing correct. I've been kind of bunking down at the Toyota Center for the last few hours, knocking out some TV hits. Plus, it's pouring rain here, so it's not like you need to go kind of spend time walking around the city. So just trying to count down the hours to tip off.
Do you think you're soft?
I actually do not.
Okay.
I think I'm practical.
Okay. All right.
And I got to appear on camera in a suit, and it's not socially acceptable to look like a drowning rat on camera. So, no, I don't think I'm soft at all.
Okay, now, just to be clear, I wasn't calling you soft, but I just wonder, living in 75-degree weather and sunshine, if that's made you soft so you don't get rained on, just out of curiosity.
The rain has never bothered me. I will say I think I've lost my tolerance for the cold a bit. But rain on a warm day is kind of nice.
Okay, all right. Well, look, last night driving home, get the alert on my phone that Atlanta was leading New York 11-9, and then I get home and turn the TV on, and it was 40-15. I honestly thought there was something wrong with the screen. I mean, I cannot believe what happened last night, Dave. What are your thoughts?
It's really funny you say that because my buddy who lives in L.A., who's a casual sports fan but grew up rooting for the Knicks, texted me last night when it was 70-something to 20-something, and he was earnestly asking, is this a glitch?
Yep.
Like, is the app glitching right now? It's wild, but if you think about the series, the Knicks won by double digits game 1. Atlanta eked out 2 wins in game 2 and game 3, including a double-digit comeback in game 2. And then the Knicks were building momentum in game 4, game 5. Certainly didn't see that type of performance coming, but it was similar, like kind of the Sixers. Like Sixers played their best game, not just of the series, maybe their best game all season against the Boston Celtics last night, and seemingly the Knicks put their stuff together at the right time.
All right, let's get over to that. You referenced Philly, and look, I'll give you credit. It was about a month ago or so where you said, look, like it might sound a little ridiculous to talk about Philly as a threat because they can't get healthy, and Embiid never seems to be healthy in the spring. And, is Paul George still a guy that moves the needle? But if Embiid is healthy and Paul George is dialed in with that young backcourt, like they're a problem on paper. This is not an easy thing for the Celtics. So now we've got a Game 7 at TD Garden. Your thoughts on what we've seen transpire there?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Embiid has the capability to be the best player in any series that he plays in. Any series. That includes all the guys who are waiting to find out going to win MVP. He is that good. It's just his body not very often allows him to be that good. I have a ton of confidence in him. Now, Paul George maybe played his best game as a Sixer last night, certainly with the game with the biggest consequence since he joined the team. That I'm not so sure you're going to get too often, but Maxey and Edgecombe, like they're the real deal. They're going to apply pressure on the defense. Now, the Sixers are going to need probably some more bench scoring. They only got 4 points out of their bench, I believe, or maybe 6 out of their bench last night. That's not going to cut it, but they might get some help on the other end. Is Jason Tatum, who had this miracle quick return from the Achilles injury and has not quite been the Jason Tatum of old, but certainly still a very high level Jason Tatum since he came back. Now he's dealing with a calf issue, and we'll see, A, if he can go, and B, if he does go, how effective he can be. And that there might be a window here for the Sixers to pull off the improbable.
So Dave Blitzer owns a portion of our local soccer club, and he was in town last week when Messi was here, and I was able to talk to him. I'm telling you that because I'm a name dropper. And I asked him, I said, look, because I think Embiid's on the books for 3 more years at max money. Paul George has 1 more year. You referenced Maxey and Edgecombe, and I love VJ Edgecombe, Big 12 kid, saw him a bunch. And I asked him, what is the plan with Joel? Like, I feel horrible that this guy who's generationally special can't stay healthy. And Dave said, we're riding with him through the end of the deal because we believe if there is a spring window, where somehow, some way he's right, we believe we have a chance to beat anybody. Maybe he's right. We'll see. But who do you think has more at stake in this Game 7? Because there's always rumors every single year that maybe Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum don't want to play with each other. I don't know. I have no idea if anybody can actually corroborate that because they're both awesome and they've won a championship. But which team needs this Game 7 win more?
Yeah, all I can say on that is that I've heard similar rumors, and I can't verify just how realistic they are. But you'd have to point to Boston just because they are a team that certainly within that locker room, within that city, I imagine the front office and the new ownership group, they believe they had championship aspirations. That wasn't necessarily the case for the Sixers. While, obviously we just talked about the scenario and who you spoke to, how there is, belief that, hey, if we do Joel Embiid right, we can be as good as anybody. But that was not what this team was building for, especially with the appendicitis that Embiid went through. Like, they're playing with house money. And certainly, the Celtics, of course, the pressure was off from the moment Tatum got hurt and they traded away all those championship pieces. But then Jaylen Brown and Joe Mazzulla proved that, hey, no, the window's still open this year. This isn't a wasted year. And to go up 3-1 in the series and potentially lose this thing, I think certainly the pressure would be on Boston coming out of it, and if that pressure goes as far as breaking up the core further than they already have from the championship, possibly, certainly I think it would be a pretty major disappointment, just the nature of the way you would lose, considering just how strong of a season that team had, and even as strong of a season that they had, they were getting better towards the playoffs. They were seemingly like a team that Cleveland and New York and whomever, Detroit, was going to have to watch out for in the playoffs.
Couple questions regarding Denver, Minnesota, as the T-Wolves eliminated the Nuggets last night. A lot of people picked Denver to potentially win the championship, and I get it because Jokic is Jokic. I wonder what your opinion is on the discourse surrounding Gobert. Like, every time he's front and center, and look, we experienced it here for 9 years, and I'm a Rudy guy. I like Rudy. I think he's a good dude, and I do think he impacts winning. I don't think he should get more, post touches. I think offensively he just catch the lobs, buddy, and have some putbacks, and then go be the most disruptive defensive player of this generation. And I've always pushed back on the whole, Rudy really shuts Jokic down, because you look at the basketball reference numbers and Jokic averages what he does against Gobert pretty much the same as everybody else. But I think it's pretty undeniable. In my opinion, Gobert was the most impactful player in that series. Yet there is this faction of basketball people that just will never say nice things about him out loud. I don't fully understand it.
Well, certainly there was a time where I looked more at the flaws of his game than the strengths, I think. And because it's not aesthetically pleasing. But having now covered the Wolves the last couple postseasons when the Lakers were out of things, and certainly paying attention just as a viewer of this series, he was tremendously effective against Nikola Jokic. There have been times, and certainly, a former Wolves said it on the record, D'Angelo Russell basically said he didn't like playing with Rudy Gobert. I get the sense from my experience being around them the last couple of years, and I give Anthony Edwards a big degree of credit for this, they take up for Gobert. They, as a team, feel the criticism that guy feels, and they use it to shield him from it and build him up. And listen, when he is confident and getting minutes and feeling like he has an important role for that team, we can see what he can do. And obviously offensively, it's still an adventure, but because he's so good defensively, and also things like, Dosunmu, who they pick up at the midseason trade, he goes out of his way to say, this is the guy who's been showing me the ropes about the way he treats his body. the equipment he has in his house to keep his body moving in the right direction on off days, the type of food that he eats. And lo and behold, when you lose Dante DiVincenzo the rest of the playoffs and you lose Anthony Edwards for an interminate amount of time because of that nasty knee sprain, Sumo's as important a player as they have right now. And the guy he looks up to is Rudy Gobert. So that's, just a great performance by him. And then also we got to give credit to Jaden McDaniels. I love trash talk in the playoffs, but what I love even more is trash talk that is backed up by play. And he called out the Denver defenders and then went out and went at them the rest of the series.
What's fair to say about David Adelman? I mean, look, I'm a Michael Malone guy. I've known him forever, and I think he's a great coach. I think that was a horrible mistake to let him go, and I don't want to put it all on the shoulders of the coach. But what's fair to say about David Adelman?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I appreciated my time working with Michael Malone as well before he went on from ESPN to UNC, and I've covered him for many years too. I have a great deal of admiration for him. I think it's not as easy or as fair just to go black and white. Like now look at what Adelman's done. I understand that's the nature of sports, but I think in general, he's proven himself to be a capable coach. They had a tough season in terms of injuries where it was hard for them to get their core together moving in the right direction at the same time for more than a week or so. And seemingly something else popped up where they're missing a key piece. But they were outperformed. He was outcoached in that series. And you heard Jokic's comments after Game 6. He said, if this was Serbia, everybody'd be fired. And certainly he wasn't speaking directly or even hinting at Adelman, who he was referring to. But that is kind of the nature of these things that you talk about. Nikola Jokic, multiple-time MVP, considered to be kind of the unofficial best player in the world title. Every year that doesn't net a championship, and 24, 25, 26, 3 years running since they won it, you have to think there'll be some sort of pressure on the decision makers in that franchise to appease him. Because if Jokic decides he doesn't want to be there anymore, then you're looking at the only golden era that franchise has ever known being over.
I understand that you're short on time. Would you tell me if it was a spa day or a mani-pedi?
I'm at the arena and I got to go do my next hit.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd keep chatting with you.
Allowed. But for the sake of time, we will ignore the we wish we could put this series on NBA TV at noon series, which is Cavs Raptors, and just get to Lakers Rockets tonight, which will be very compelling. No Durant. Austin Reeves did come back and play. You're the guy for this. How, look, LeBron's seen everything, so he's not feeling pressure, but how heightened is the nervous energy surrounding the Lakers right now?
You know what? Like, certainly, LeBron, you're right. You're spot on. And I was kind of chatting to him after his media the other night after the Game 5 loss, and he's unfazed. But the thing that they just have to be mindful of is that, like, some of the players that they have on this team, and certainly Marcus Smart's played in the finals, DeAndre Ayton's played in the finals, so you wouldn't point to them. Just some of these players who haven't played in huge games. And, it is valuing every possession. And where the Lakers have shown that they are not valuing every possession enough is not take care of the basketball. And, two of the guys with some of the most experience have been the culprits, LeBron in Game 4 with 8, Marcus Smart in Game 5 with 6, but it's not just them. I mean, they had 23 turnovers over the team in Game 4, 15 leading to 18 points for the Rockets in Game 5. If they don't do that, the Rockets will beat them because the Rockets are going to get more shots already just based on being one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the last 25 years that we've seen. So that's a strength of theirs. And then, so that's giving them an extra 10 shots a game. And then if you keep turning the ball over in the ratio that it's been going in the series, that's another 20 shots per game. Even if they shoot poorly, that's just an extra 20 shots to try to get more points than you. And when the Lakers are struggling to create offense, understandably, because the leading scorer in the NBA this year is not playing this series in Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves, while he scored 22 in his first game back and played well, all things considered, after missing a month. He only goes 4 for 16 because it's naturally needs to find a rhythm. And so to me, the way they can come out of Game 6 with a win is it's another low-scoring affair. You win on the margins, and maybe, LeBron's had a good series, and maybe you get a great game out of LeBron, and that's enough to get you through.
Dave, thanks, man. Enjoy the game. You go back to your day job, and we'll chat soon. Thanks, bud.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Spence.
Dave McMenamin covers the NBA for ESPN. He's live at the Toyota Center in Houston, where the Rockets will try to draw even with the Lakers tonight. 7:30 Prime Video. All 3 games are on Prime Video tonight. Wait a second. How are they going to do that? Well, I guess it's a streaming service.
Yeah, you don't get to watch unless you.
Do you have Prime Video, or are you stealing it from your mother like you do? What's the service you steal from your mom again?
No comment. Families always share streaming logins.
But does she know that you have it? Does she?
Do you pay for every streaming service separately? I want to know. You got a YouTube, you got a Amazon, you got a Netflix, you got a HBO, got a Hulu.
Hold on. No YouTube. I have regular cable television. I'm a dish guy. HBO Max is a must. Apple TV is a must. I just signed up for Paramount because there was a game on it. So I'll probably forget to cancel it. They'll ding me another $11.
So you have Dish.
I have Dish.
A centralized system where all the channels go and you can choose which ones you want and which ones you pay for. What a novel concept. What a amazing, groundbreaking novel concept. We should try doing that.
I have Netflix through my cell phone plan. Do I have Hulu? I think I have Hulu because doesn't Hulu have no. What has The Office?
Peacock.
See, I have Peacock because it has The Office.
And NBA playoff.
Do I? Well, yes, that too. But I don't think I have Hulu. That might be the only. No, I do because I have the Disney, ESPN, Hulu bundle package.
There you go.
So yeah, I have all of them. And cable. You know what? He might be listening because his wife is out of town, and his wife doesn't like sports. I'm quite convinced my brother has somehow gained access to multiple streaming services because over the past few months, like a random account, you can pull up the streaming service. It's like owner account and then boom, side account. Mm-hmm. Over the past few months, a couple random accounts have popped up on my streaming services, and my brother loves The Big Lebowski, and it's called The Dude.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure it's him.
That's got to be.
Should I confront him?
It's not me, just to be clear.
Which ones do you... Well, but you're young. You probably know how to pirate and do all that stuff to get free stuff.
I wish.
You don't have that skill?
I am technologically sound enough to get you on air and nothing more.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Barely.
See, I'm Jim and Pam watching movies with Andy from The Office, and they're like, we're not morally above, finding a way to pirate these movies. We just don't know how to do it. Right. If someone out there wants to teach me how to steal television, please do.
You used to be able to physically get the cable.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing anymore, but I'd try that. Do you remember the Seinfeld episode?
Of course. Do you think I could write off paying for cable and streaming services because I have to watch games for the job?
Probably.
Will you look into that during the break?
Sure.
You won't. So tonight, all 3 are on Prime Video, okay? So that's your nightly NBA. Man, now I'm racking my brain to see if I really do have all these services, and now I'm wondering if I need to look over my budget a little bit more with how much I'm paying for everything. Pistons, Magic, Cavs, Raptors, Lakers, Rockets. Porter, here's the question. I think Boston's in trouble. I think the Celtics are in trouble. Tatum left last night in the third quarter. It was a leg injury to the other leg, not the one he came back from. I think Nimi Keita is our guy who played at Utah State. I actually think he's done a pretty decent job. McMenamin called it like a month ago. Like if Embiid is right and he's fully healthy, you get something out of Paul George, who once upon a time was a top 5 guy. And that young backcourt, they're 2 dogs, man. I don't know that I'd go as far as to pick Philly, but I think Boston's in trouble. I don't have any belief in the Cavs or the Raptors. The Pistons, I think, lose tonight. I'm thinking the Knicks might have something to say about the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the East is wide open. Now, I think the winner of Philly Celtics might be the favorite, even though Philly obviously doesn't have the seed that you typically put there. But it's always kind of just been about availability for them. A roster that has VJ Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Joel Embiid, you keep going down that list, healthy, that's a team you don't want to face in the playoffs, at least if they're rolling right. So I'm with you. I do think Boston is in trouble. I think if they get out of this, they still probably have something to say about the East once it's all said and done. But, yeah, man, these playoffs have become a lot more wide open. Now, OKC, I think San Antonio is really good. I think the West is going to be tough to break into anything beyond those two. But the NBA playoffs, man, they're pretty wide open. And for a viewing experience, I think that's a lot of fun.
So the return, I want to get to a couple of things about Rudy before I catch a break. I don't know that I've ever really dug in with you about the Gobert stuff because obviously locally we covered Rudy for 9 years. So he was always front page for us. But he plays in Minnesota. It's not a big market. And, you know, they have Ant, so people like to watch their games. But you don't hear a lot about Gobert unless there's like a controversy about whether or not he should be an all-star or win Defensive Player of the Year on a national scale. Or when the playoffs roll around and he goes up against a generationally special player, I'm not going to go as far as to say he shut his water off. But Jokic was compromised. Rudy was the most impactful player in that series.
Absolutely.
And look, man, I felt like, and I tried not to do the lazy local media narrative, just trying to kiss the asses of all of our local teams, certainly the Jazz. When the Jazz made the Rudy deal, my reaction was, that's a good haul for Rudy, but that's a good trade for Minnesota. And I felt like everyone around, like, Danny Ainge, man, what a haul. Jazz are going to be back. And we'll see, because there's still some picks that are on the way, and they did draft Keontae with one of the picks. They used some of the picks to draft players that they traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. There's a world where this trade is fine for both sides, but I still don't view that as some sort of massive mistake by the Timberwolves. Not at all.
No. Not when you look back on it, and they've got, 2 semifinal runs. They've got now
one Western Conference Finals run. Yeah.
A Western Conference Finals run, and now you just dispatched the former MVP and the Nuggets. It's one where, people are and probably are going to continue and always be hesitant to acknowledge Rudy's effect on the game just because it's not as much on the offensive side, at least from the highlight perspective, right? He's not handling the ball. He's not shooting threes. He's just setting screens and rolling. But he's so good at that, and he is so effective on the defensive side that he's one of the best defenders in this generation, in NBA history, if you want to get down to it. So, yeah, man, you got to give him his flowers. And for the Jazz, I do think they got a good haul. But when you are, when your haul is picks, you then have to do more work to make that a good trade, right? It's something where the return on that is incomplete. It's not necessarily worse or better than what Minnesota got. It's just incomplete, and the onus is on you to now go hit on those draft picks, to use those assets in a way that gets you back to contention. It's going to take longer for the return on that trade to really formulate for the Jazz. But for Minnesota, you have to look back on it and be pretty happy. You got the player you thought you were getting in Rudy Gobert. The question is now, Spence, is that contract on that back end is about to expire, and Rudy's still playing really good basketball. I find it difficult to be in a position where he is now, I think, 34, 35? That's the difficult part. Is this the run you have with him and then it's over? Because with a player of that size, with a player that's built like that, the 35-plus years of age sometimes don't look great. So I do wonder what it looks like going forward. But for the 4 or 5 year span that you get him, Minnesota has done wonders, and he fits really well with that system too. Isn't asked to do too much, isn't asked to guard three players at the same time in a certain defensive scheme where the guards can't stand in front of a traffic cone. I think it has and will turn out pretty beneficial for both teams, just in very, very different ways.
Yeah, I'll never forget the way people were talking about Royce O'Neal like he was Bruce Bowen in 1999. I'm like, dude, he's like an average rotational player.
And he was their best perimeter defender,
he was,
to be
but
clear.
I mean, that just tells you all you need to know about everything Rudy had to do to keep that thing afloat. Yep. The future picks that will come the Jazz way as a result of the Gobert deal, the next one will be next year. The Jazz get the second most favorable of their own, Cleveland and Minnesota. The most favorable of that package goes to Memphis, and the least favorable goes to Phoenix via Utah. Then the next one after that will be in 2029, where they get the most and the second most favorable of their own, Cleveland and Minnesota. And the last one of those, the bundle of those three, the Jazz will get two, and then one goes to Charlotte from Utah via Phoenix. That's weird. So two more bites at the apple. One is next year. The other is 2029. The 2029 one might have some potential, but Ant's so young. Minnesota might be really good for the next 4 or 5 years. So what's that pick going to look like? We'll have to see. All right, we'll get back to some NBA playoff stuff later on, but we're going to switch gears. It's a game day for the Utah Mammoth, so Adrian Denny joins us coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. When I hear Third Eye Blind, I think summer, hockey, and Adrian Denny. Friday afternoon style game day for the Mammoth. What's up, dude? How are you?
Hey, Spence. How's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm nervous / confident. Why can't our guys close out periods and games, Adrian? What's going on?
I think Spence, if Utah was up 3-2 in the series, Vegas would be saying the exact same thing. It's been back and forth. Utah has erased deficits in 4 or 5 games. They've had leads in all 5 games. I think if you look around the NHL, you've seen a lot of this. The Mammoth are tied with Montreal in terms of blown leads in the playoffs right now, and Montreal leads their series 3-2. Things kind of go back and forth, and I think if you look at this series, it's so easy to be hard on yourself, just in life in general, because you're so focused on you, right? And I think it's the same way if you're a Mammoth fan, you're looking at this saying, how can we not keep a lead? How are we trailing in this series when we've led in every game? And I think you just got to look at the other half of it, and that's the team you're playing in Vegas, a high pressure team, an opportunistic team, a playoff season team that has won one more game than Utah at this point. And I think it's all great experience for the Mammoth. I think the most impressive thing was, gosh, when that game ended close to midnight Vegas time on Wednesday night, we heard from Clayton Keller, John Marino, Lawson Krause, and when a game ends, you get a 10-minute cool down period before media availability starts, and those guys, I think, were out there faster than that. But there was nothing in terms of, I'm sure they were disappointed, but nothing in terms of their outright delivery of, other than, wow, that's just close. That's too bad. We can't wait to get back home for Game 6. Andre Turney pointing out that could they have defended a little differently on the 6-on-5 when Vegas tied it? Yeah, that was the only scoring chance the Golden Knights had in the time that Utah had that lead. So it was one thing, and that's why every little tiny detail in the Stanley Cup playoffs is so big, because all the games are exactly like this.
Casual Friday morning, just going to the gym, wailing away on my delts, getting some lat work in, moving around heavy weights this morning, Adrian, just so you know. And of course,
yeah, I was on the elliptical for an hour, and I ran uphill 30 minutes in my neighborhood. That's what I did.
Porter, what did you do to take care of yourself today? Did you exercise, or are you going to go later on?
Both.
It's gain season.
Just kidding. Probably not both today.
It's gain season. You got to get the beach bod ready. I want you to stay on top of it.
I did get outside. I did some uphill work. In the sunlight, of course.
Okay, anyway, back to me. Just moving heavy weight around. And, of course, I'm firing up Mammoth Daily, my daily stop to listen to you and your guy Folta about the Mammoth. And did I hear one of you say that Vegas has scored 11 6-on-5 goals this year?
Yeah, they scored 10 in the regular season. You saw in the standings the amount of overtime losses they had. They had kind of a bizarre season, but the third periods is when they made a lot of action happen. But yeah, 10 6-on-5 goals, and as we know, the Mammoth have scored 1 in their team history over the last 2 years. So yeah, Vegas got another one on Wednesday, which was their 11th of the season.
Is there any just straight bad luck going on right now for them? I don't want to take any credit away from Vegas, because when you're down and it's late and you find a way to survive, you get the credit. But sometimes I feel like and look, if you're going to win a trophy, luck's part of it, health's part of it, luck's part of it. Mm-hmm. Or does it feel like we're on the wrong side of Lady Luck in this series?
I don't think so. I don't. I think it's just about making plays and executing and taking advantage of every situation. Like Spence, if the Mammoth can score a power play goal on Wednesday, you have a 2-goal lead. Right. The game is just in a different spot. I think if you look at Game 3, the one game in this series that Utah won comfortably, was the only game that they scored a power play goal in. So, I mean, you could look at a number of different things. I don't think you can say, I don't think you'd say luck. I think Vegas has done a good job. They're a high pressure, heavy team, and I know when you turn the puck over like Mackenzie Weegar did in that double overtime, number one, that's how games are decided in overtime because everybody's exhausted. You're waiting for a mistake, and then Vejmelka makes a save. But Vegas had to force the pressure to knock that puck away that they did.
Have you seen, and look, the margins are so razor thin. These are two really good teams playing high-level hockey. Are there areas where the Mammoth clearly have the advantage, Adrian?
100% their speed, and that's what Vegas has been trying to kind of manage in terms of they came out in Game 5 on Wednesday, and you saw them trying to bruise a little bit, and that was first time we'd really seen that since the first period in Game 2. It got the Mammoth off their game, and Logan Cooley took 2 penalties in the first 2 periods of that game, and you could just see like composure just was not a strong suit, and Vegas was able to manage that and kind of get Utah off of their game, and Logan Cooley's an emotional kid, and he has those spurts still at the age of 21 where he's going to get frustrated and take a penalty. So when Utah is faster and more skilled than Vegas, they know that the only way they can win the series is to try and push them around and try and get them off their game and try and get them off their composure a little bit, which is what they did in the first period to take the lead, and what they did in the second period to get those 2 quick goals. They scored the first one, and then they just kept coming, and the Mammoth just were a little off. So that's been how Vegas has kind of been able to swing things in spurts when it feels like I'm watching Wednesday's game and I don't get frustrated. But in the first 2 periods, I was just beyond myself of we gotta stop this because we should be in control of this game, and this is a game to take control of this series, and they just couldn't kind of get out of their own way. And then they come out in the third period, clean slate, fresh start, took the lead, and they scored on the 6-on-5. So Utah is so much faster. I think you've seen in-game adjustments in games 2 because game 2 was on the verge of getting away at 1-0 in the first, and the Mammoth came out. And in periods 2 and 3, they took control, and they were able to use their speed, breaking through the neutral zone. They scored 2 goals that way on Wednesday night. Game 3 was a really nice game for Utah, coming back home and getting advantage of the last change, right, on a face-off when head coach Andre Turney can look out there, see who Vegas has got. He can send out the guys that he wants. And then in a game on Monday night, you're down 3-0. Things quickly got back in Utah's favor there. So it's been a lot of swings for Utah. The swings have been more kind of, okay, this swings the game. For Vegas, it's been like, okay, this kind of swings a 2-minute situation, but they've both been equal.
What do you make of the overall coaching matchup? As we talked about, John Tortorella has been everywhere and seen it all, and has won a ton of postseason games and is a Stanley Cup winner, and Coach Torney is still maybe learning how to do this in the postseason, all due respect. But what do you make of how that matchup has unfolded?
I think Utah's come out on the better end of it. His playoff experiences with the Avs when Patrick Waugh was head coach, he was an assistant. But there's also some assistant coaches that he's got that are really dialed in on their areas, like Blaine Forsythe on the power play, which has struggled, right? And has given up 2 shorthanded goals, yes, 100%. But he was on the bench with Washington running their power play with Alexander Ovechkin when they won the Stanley Cup championship. I think that's a huge advantage. John Madden running Utah's penalty kill, which is only allowed 2 power play goals in 5 games against Vegas, who had 6th ranked power play during the regular season. That's an area for Vegas that is just John Tortorella has lost his mind over why they can't get the power play going. So Utah's done a good job of that. I think in this series there's been more tweaks from the Mammoth than Vegas, which you could say, well, they lost the first game and and now they're down 3-2. So maybe you'll see more from that. But I think the Utah coaching staff has done a great job in game adjustments from game to game. I think Utah also has a huge, I don't want to say advantage, but they've got a huge tool, a huge piece in Mario Duhamel, who runs the defense for Utah. He's been with Andre Tourigny for 2 decades, but he's kind of got that knack of going with the hot hand. And we've seen John Marino and Sean Dursey both play above their usual minutes in certain games of this series, just based on the feel of it.
Mammoth have a coach named John Madden?
Yes, sir. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, and he won the Selke Award, which is given to the best defensive forward. He won that twice. So yes, that is correct. Not to be confused with John Gruden, who's the AHL coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Huh. Good knowledge. Good knowledge, Adrian Denny.
Thank you.
Since I asked you about the advantage that the Mammoth have, where is Vegas out skating Utah right now?
Jack Eichel just kind of seems to be involved in every single thing that they do. Mitch Marner's been a little quiet. They've gotten Pavel Dorofeev going, who is their leading goal scorer during the regular season, and kind of like Keller, Schmaltz, and Krause early on in this series, you didn't hear from him, and then he got the hat trick on Wednesday night. Advantages for Vegas, they're just kind of sneaky, Spence. Like you taking that 2-goal lead in Game 3 was so huge because they came out and they were controlling the game, and Vejmelka made some stops, and Utah got the first one from Uyghur, and to go up 2-0 just kind of allowed him to take control, because that's been the only way that they've been able to shake the Golden Knights in this series.
Did Adrian just fall into a pothole?
I think so.
Okay, let's make sure he's alive first, and then let's see if we can get him back on the show. That sounded like he very quickly got himself quicksand. That was a quicksand.
A cartoon, like, yeah. He walked over a manhole in the street.
That's exactly what it sounded like. Let's see if we can get Adrian back on the show. Talking a little Mammoth tonight. It's an 8 o'clock drop of the puck. The game can be seen on ESPN. The start time is predicated on the ending of Buffalo-Boston. A couple of things we were talking with Adrian about in case you missed it. Vegas has scored 11 6-on-5 goals this year. So when they pull their goalie and have one extra attacking skater, they have 11 goals on the year. Utah has 1 in their past 2 years. That's a wild stat to me. The other thing to keep in mind that I read this morning, in the history of pro hockey, history of the chase for Lord Stanley's Cup, teams that are down 3-2 win 20% of the series. It's an insanely high number. I think that number is like 7 or 8% in basketball, maybe a little higher, but 20%. This thing is very much not over, as the Mammoth will try to stave off elimination tonight. Some interesting stuff from Adrian about the physicality of Vegas. Adrian, are you alive? Did you fall into a pothole?
I don't know, man. I'm sitting in our Mountain Blue radio studios, and I don't know what happened. I'm just talking. You know how it is when you're talking. You're on like a 4 or 5 minute thought, and then all of a sudden the person you're talking to calls back.
Yeah, all good. Modern technology, stuff happens. We were kind of in the middle, or you were nearing the end of your answer about where Vegas has the advantage. And essentially, it just seems like they've been a little bit more opportunistic in the biggest moments. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's it. And that's their playoff experience, just kind of coming out and taking over, just that general veteran instinct. They've got a lot of it.
Who has been the MVP for the Mammoth so far? The best player for the Mammoth so far in this series?
You could say Dylan Guenther.
Yeah.
He's got 5 points. He's got a 4-game scoring streak. He just continues to score huge goals for Utah. He tied the game up in the third period on Wednesday. I think Lawson Krause has had a heck of a playoff series. He's been out there playing on that top line with Keller and Schmaltz, and he's picked up points, but he laid down a career high 11 hits on Wednesday night after laying down a career-high 10 hits in one of the games back here in Salt Lake. He's got 5 points in 5 games. Clayton Keller he's been great. Him, Schmaltz, and Krause, the top 10 5-on-5 forward line in the NHL during the regular season, and went scoreless first 2 games. We talked about that last Friday when I came on with you, but they're playing the best hockey that I've ever seen them play, and it's just kind of, come up a bit in intensity. And we heard from Clayton Keller after the game on Wednesday, and Clayton is a guy that he does media because he's professional and it's part of the job and it's part of being a captain in the NHL, but you could tell that he'd rather be like, taking supplements or working out or firing shots or, talking to his teammates, right? It's not his favorite thing. And when he came out and talked to the media after the game Wednesday, there was a fire that you see from Clayton when he's on the bench, when he's on the ice, when he's talking to his teammates, that he said to the media, if you can't get up for game number 6 at home, there's something wrong with you. So you can tell like that emotion, he's always got it. He just doesn't have it with the media. And that was one thing that really struck with me on Wednesday night. And he talked to the media again today after morning skate. And he had kind of that same fire, that same focus that I have never seen from him talking publicly over the years.
Interesting. Gunther's 8th in ice time. I find that somewhat. I mean, look, the margins are 20 and 30 seconds. It's not a big deal. I just pulled that up and it kind of caught me off guard a bit.
Yeah, I would say I'd like to see that number after 4 games because the ice time on Wednesday night was just a little out of whack because of the 3 penalties in the first period, and Gunther doesn't kill penalties. Mikhail Sergachev does, for instance, and is on the power play and plays top line D minutes. He had over 9 minutes in the first period on Wednesday. So I would say that, even with a double overtime game, Gunther's minutes in the first period just must have been 2 or 3 shifts of all the penalty killing. Because I hadn't noticed that till you brought it up.
When it comes to the penalties, and look, I love the kid. Logan might be my favorite player on this team, Logan Cooley. I wonder if that penalty, because in the game that I was live at, it stood out to me the most, where even though he is not the biggest, toughest dude, he's coming at you. He's involved in all of these skirmishes. He's going to let you know that he's there, and he's there all night. And I just wondered if at some point that aggressive nature was going to lead to a little bit of a misstep. What would you say about that penalty that he was given? And is that a situation where he just needs to keep his head a little bit more?
Yeah, it 100% is. Head coach Andre Cherney told us this morning when he was asked about the penalties, he's like, penalties are bad decisions that we're talking about here. Like, it's a good decision, it's a bad decision. He was talking about, some of the turnovers, and he mentioned, when you're in your kitchen and you have a glass in your hand that you just got out of the cupboard and you drop it, you didn't mean to do that. It just kind of happened in the flow of life. But the penalties that he was addressing this morning, he's like, those are bad decisions. There's good decisions, bad decisions. Those are bad decisions. And for Cooley, everything you love about him is, why he ends up in the penalty box sometimes when he gets frustrated. And that's why Vegas is trying to go after him, because he's got a reputation that you can frustrate him in certain circumstances, and you can take advantage of that. And, Bear also saying, but he'll get through that. He's like, that's how the NHL treats Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid in the playoffs. They go after him. They go hit him. They go try and frustrate him. So that's one thing that Logan's working through. But I thought he was off of his game, at least in the first 2 periods on Wednesday night, because of that. But it's only good that you can have the opportunity to work through that, because it's just kind of a passion that drives him and makes him so good in other areas.
Is it simple to say who Vegas's best player has been? I mean, I know Mark Stone is their captain, but he doesn't stand out as like the biggest star on the team. Who do you think has been the best player for Vegas so far?
Jack Eichel's got 8 points in 5 games on 7 assists, and he forced a turnover on Uyghur the other night that Vemelka robbed him on that then led to the game-winning goal. So I'd say Jack Eichel's been a gamer. I like him. I like him as a player.
Do we have a villain that we can look at for Vegas as this series continues to move along?
You know who's been a real pest? That Brett Howden.
Yep.
He's a third-line forward. Vegas got him for a mid-round draft pick from the Rangers several years ago. And he scored that shorthanded game-winning goal the other night. He had a huge goal for him on Monday. He scored an overtime game winner last year for him in the first round. Number 21 is kind of just what he does in the game. Like not because he's a pest, but he's just kind of always sneaking around, and he's made some huge plays for Vegas that have led to them taking this 3-2 series lead.
10 goals allowed in the last 2 games. When we last had you on, you were going to get off the phone and attack poor Tom Callahan for saying Veggie needed to be a little bit better. So I just want to revisit. I mean, 10 goals allowed in 2 games. It's too many goals. You're not going to win the series that way. So is there something to say about Vemelka, defensive breakdowns, or simply tip of the cap to a good team in Vegas?
So let's take 10 goals. Let's subtract the 2 shorthanded goals. Let's subtract the 6-on-5 goal. Let's subtract a power play goal. So that's 6 goals in 2 games, 5-on-5. I think Spence, for the first time in this series in Game 4, Carter Hart had a really good game for Vegas that helped them win. For Vemelka, his Game 3 helped Utah win. His numbers are fine in this series, but to quote Tom last week, right? He said, "Good, not great."
Mm-hmm.
Probably good, not great.
How many goals wins this game tonight? What's the magic number?
This is the second highest scoring series in the NHL, and the other one is Anaheim-Edmonton, and that series ended last night with the Ducks winning, and you knew that series was going to be crazy. Utah scored 4 goals in 3 straight. I think you'd like to not give up 4, which goes without saying tonight, but you probably have to score 4 to win a Game 6 to force it back to Vegas, which they've shown in the last 3 games they can do. But for heaven's sakes, don't give up a shorthanded goal. I think everybody's on the same page there, and the Mammoth are going to make sure that doesn't happen. If you can score a power play goal for the second time in this series, that's going to be a huge X factor. And if you could enter the final 2 minutes where they don't have to go 6-on-5, I think that'd be great. Be great too.
Yes. Ultimately, we'll move over now, and you kind of outlined probably some things that you'll say in response to the question, but just give me a 2, 3, 4 keys that the Mammoth, when they've done have turned out to be, winning decision-making or, opportunities or whatever. And then Vegas, give me the Adrian Denny keys for the Mammoth win tonight. Take as many as you want.
I'd love to have a multi-goal lead. I keep going back to Game 3 where they were able to do that and play with the lead, and you weren't worrying about every single, item in the game putting us back to a tie game or trailing in a game. I'd like a power play goal in this game. 1 power play goals in 5 games. That's done. I don't think you can force this series back to Vegas with 1 power play goal in 6 games. For Vegas, they want to come out early again and get a lead in the first minute. I think that was their recipe. And in Game 4, they were able to jump up 3-0. In elimination games, they're really, really tricky. They're really, really sneaky. You can't trust them. If Utah's got a 1-goal lead in the third period, Vegas is really going to shift it into overdrive because they don't want to show up on Sunday and play a Game 7, especially with Anaheim waiting, especially with them having the the second oldest team in the playoffs. So for me, it's all about playing with a multi-goal lead because Vegas doesn't want to play a game 7. And when a team is in a position to win an elimination game, they play it, not necessarily in the first 2 periods, but if they get into the final 10 minutes and have a chance to tie it or force overtime, that's a pretty dangerous situation to be in.
Last thing, I'll set you loose on this. For listeners that have not been able to attend a game yet so far here in the postseason, I was at Game 3, and we'll have an opportunity to make it tonight. I want the Adrian Denny explanation of what that building has felt like so far and what you're expecting tonight, which could potentially be, hopefully it's not, the final home game of the season.
I had my favorite experience at a sporting event ever on Monday night in Game 4. Like, I want to call the thing the parachute, but that big Utah Mammoth banner that they unravel across several sections, that came into our section on Monday night, and I was able to grab the end of it and push it up and down like we were in PE in 4th grade playing with the parachute. And that's the most fun that I've ever had at a sporting event in my life. But it's going to be great. I saw something on Twitter. This is unconfirmed. This isn't from the team, but like flashing wristbands. One of the Vegas reporters who was at Morning Skate said that those were going to be in store. And does anything look more cool, Spence, when you've got rally towels just waving in the air, and you've got you've got the lighting that's not high school gym lighting that you can just click the lights on back and forth and just create that scene. And I don't know what the items are, but Mike mentioned it on Mammoth Daily. I don't know who his sources are, but Mike hears that we've got some really cool things to unveil tonight from a game presentation standpoint as well, to take it to another level. And Spence, you were here for Game 3. That was awesome. Mike and I both thought Game 4 was at a different level, and that was on a rainy Monday when the team was down 3-0, and we still felt the building was at another notch.
Yeah, I can't wait for tonight, man. It's going to be fun. Adrian, where can people go find your work, my man?
You can find us on Mammoth Daily, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus, and SEG Plus. If the Mammoth win tonight, Mike and I will be back with a reaction show right after the game, so we don't have to wait till Monday to really get into it, especially with a Game 7 pending. So we'll have a reaction show after the game tonight, and we've got Mammoth Daily and, of course, Hockey Night in Utah. You can find us on the NHL app. Tyson Nash is going to be with Mike and I on the broadcast tonight, so always love having Tyson on the radio with us.
Good stuff, my friend. I'm glad you did not fall into a pothole or into a area of quicksand, and you're safe. Thank you for your time today. Enjoy the game. Have a great weekend, Adrian, okay?
I appreciate you, Spence. I'll see you around soon.
There we go. Adrian Denny from the Utah Mammoth broadcast team. Drop of the puck tonight should be around 8 o'clock. It's scheduled for 8 o'clock, predicated on the final time of the Sabres-Bruins game. It is on ESPN, big boy ESPN, so you don't have to go look for any streaming options for the game tonight. The Mammoth will try to stay alive and force a Game 7, which would be Sunday in Las Vegas. All right, we got Pablo Mastroeni is going to join us, 4 o'clock, head coach of Real Salt Lake. Paul Pugmire for the latest on the world of golf. But coming up next, we'll get back to some of the college football storylines. We talked about the Big 12 equity deal and kind of unpacked that a little bit. Latest on the college basketball transfer portal. I had a chance to catch up with Alex Jensen on the show this week, if you missed that. Check out the website. We'll catch a break. More coming up on the other side of a Friday edition of The Drive right here on ESPN 700. Drank a sugar-free Red Bull during the break, so you know.
Whole thing?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Friday afternoon.
Just chugging it?
Yeah, dragging a little bit. There was a sugar-free Red Bull on the counter outside. It probably belonged to somebody, but now it's in my belly.
Oh, really?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even yours, huh?
Well, I mean, you can't just if it's just sitting there next to the fridge. I feel like that should be in bounds for me to snag. No.
Okay. I'll make sure I don't leave my Red Bulls anywhere.
Are you a Red Bull guy? Do you typically drink Red Bulls?
Not typically Red Bull. I am probably too reliant on caffeine, but it usually isn't in the Red Bull form.
See, that's the issue. I did not have, and I try not to be reliant on coffee. Like, I got to have my coffee.
Right.
There's some people, it's like, don't talk to them until they have their coffee.
Relax.
Well, exactly. And at one point, when I was doing the old show with Bill back in the day, Bill and Spence, for you old school Utah Sports Talk radio listeners, that's like 15 years ago now, I would have like 6 cups of coffee a day. I'd wake up, boom, that's the first thing. And then basically throughout the entire show, and at one point we were 3 to 7, which is ridiculous. So I'd have my last cup of coffee at like 6 p.m. It's stupid, ridiculous behavior because it affects your sleep.
And then you're up until 2.
And now, with what we know about our circadian rhythm.
Of course.
Yep. Sunlight early on, right? Non-sleep, deep rest. That's a deep track, okay, for you Huber bros. I try to have 1 coffee in the morning. That's it. But I did something today that made me feel like a 12-year-old again. I bought a box of football cards.
Ooh, okay. We can talk about this.
Yeah. So our friends out at Overtime Cards and Collectibles, we've done some remotes out there. My guy Chris and his wife Michelle, they rule. I'm going through the process of I have a decent, not overly impressive, but a decent collection of like sports memorabilia. And I'm trying to get it all like authenticated, right? And, gonna frame some, put it up in the house, put it up in the office. So I went out and dropped off a bunch of memorabilia today for them to send out to whatever the service is.
PSA.
Is that what it is?
Usually, but there's a few.
That sounds right, because I think they're a PSA dealer. I think they're officially like linked to them. So you go through the thing, you got to fill out all the forms. Like this industry is blowing up now. Like they're going to open up a second Overtime Cards and Collectibles down in Spanish Fork.
Right.
I was really kind of unaware because I loved this when I was a kid. I had binders and like if I ever did chores and made money, I would go buy baseball cards, basketball cards, football cards. I had binders of them. The problem is when I was collecting is when all of the cards were printed, so like none of them have value. I've got a couple of decent ones. I've got a Jordan second year. I got a Kobe rookie. But I have like Chris Paul autographed jerseys and some Real Madrid stuff. And so I went in and I pull up and there's this big line. Like guys waiting to get into Overtime Cards and Collectibles because they open up at 11. This is like 10:55. And it turns out there's this new licensing agreement that Topps has made with the NFL to start selling football cards. And I didn't know this because, again, this industry is just booming. I guess in this box of cards, there's like a Drake May rookie, Jaden Daniels rookie card with like a piece of their jersey and their autograph. Mm-hmm. And if you crack one open, they're already going for like $4 or $5 grand. So I'm like, I might as well just spend $70 on a box of football cards. So I'm telling you, what are you laughing at?
You just got a text. It's pretty funny.
All right. Well, if it was his, I'm glad I did. Let me put it that way. If that's his, I'm glad I chugged it. So I'm like, I might as well spend $75 on a box of football cards if there's a chance I could crack open a pack and get like a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May rookie. So in addition to dropping off my stuff today to go through the process of it getting authenticated, I bought a box of football cards. I'm going home tonight to crack open a box of football cards.
Oh, you haven't ripped it yet?
No, I didn't have time.
Okay.
But that's the reason I'm telling you the story is that's why I didn't have time to grab coffee, and therefore I drank Chad's Red Bull, and I'm glad about it.
Shout out Chad.
Shout out Chad.
Yeah, no, the card game's an interesting one. You'll probably have seen me tweet here and there about it because I kind of grew up in it. My dad actually he was before Overtime Cards existed, End Zone Sports Cards did.
Okay.
Up in Heber. And that was my dad's shop. And although I do have a collection of my own that I'll probably keep, some Cowboy stuff, some of his old stuff that I'll never sell. I am also now left with a literal storage container's worth of cards that I'm in the process of very slowly going through. So when I walk into overtime, they are both delighted and also a little upset that I am there, because it means they're about to go through like thousands and thousands of cards, but also usually some good ones. So
have you had them go through your collection yet?
A few times.
Okay.
I've taken 2 carloads to Overtime Cards and Collectibles. We've gone through them, a bunch of Jordans, a bunch of rookie Peyton Mannings, and a bunch of Favres. Like a lot of it is like late 80s, 90s, or very early 2000s, which was when we were really into it. So no, I've done some business with Overtime Cards and Collectibles for sure. Shout out to Chris and Michelle.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you guys have like I did and Porter does, because I went through. I'm in the middle of spring cleaning. Nobody cares about this, but if you walked into my house right now, you'd be like, "Why are you a hoarder?"
Yeah, me too.
I'm in the process of getting rid of a bunch of stuff, and so everything that was in the basement or in the storage shed is in my first floor because I'm going through all of it, and basically found a bunch of stuff like sports memorabilia that I forgot that I had when I was a kid. And if you guys are in the same boat, I mean, they're not clients, but they're friends. Go to Overtime Cards and Collectibles. They'll go through with you and they'll tell you if you have some value there. It's actually kind of a fun process.
Yeah, it is. And they're straight up with you. Like I've gone to events, card gatherings where sometimes you run into folks who are just trying to profit. They're just trying to get their stuff. They want stock. They want cards to sell. They want to make a business operate. So while they aren't going to give you 100% of what that card's worth, you're going to get very transparent. Here's what we're working with.
Yeah.
Here's what this card is worth. Here's what we'll give you for it. Also, if you want, if it's really a money card, we'll get it graded for you, and you can go sell it on your own for the full price, right?
Yeah.
You can throw it up on eBay or whatnot, which I've also done. With some of those. So
yeah, that's kind of the process, because I don't know that I'm planning on selling any of this stuff, but you know, if you go through the process and get it authenticated and you get like a really good grade back, if your card's like a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, the value of it just goes through the roof.
That's kind of the problem I'm running into.
Yeah, I did too.
Is my dad was professional at this. So these cards are all like perfect, right? They came out of the slip and they went into a protected thing.
Hard plastic cover.
So a lot of these are like really, really good cards that I kind of have to get graded, which also costs money. It's a whole big thing where I'm not just throwing 100 cards on eBay and they're gone the next week. There's a process behind it, and it's slow. When you have a train load of them, it takes time.
Yeah, I'm trying to authenticate like 5 pieces, and they said it was going to take probably 3 months, and it's hundreds of dollars to pay for the grade. So I'm hoping that a grade comes back that is decent, so I'm not just paying for – because this is not a knock on Chris or Michelle or Overtime Cards. There is like a little feel like, wait a second, I'm paying $300 to send you 5 jerseys to authenticate? Like this feels like a little bit of a racket. But the process, as I learned today, is if they do authenticate, you know, one of them's a David Beckham jersey that was signed. Like if they authenticate it and give you a grade, you know, that potentially could be worth a lot of money. So we'll see. But it was fun. Like I have not opened a pack of cards in years. And I just took advantage of the fact that I was out there and there was this run on this new NFL box of cards. Like I'm telling you, like 50 dudes were there waiting in line to buy this box. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's cool to see it kind of have a moment again. It did a little bit during the pandemic as well. Yeah, it's been interesting. I will. I'm not going to buy any in any time soon because of how many are sitting in my apartment right now. But I have some from like it's a 1989 baseball, and it hasn't been opened yet. So there's some that I'm like, I wonder what could be in here.
Okay, yeah, it's man, it used to be my favorite thing when I went through the process, because like you, I don't think I had as many as you, because obviously with your pops owning a store. But I kept all of them, and every time I moved, they moved with me. So over the years, wear and tear, you know, and ultimately when I brought the majority of the stuff in, Chris was like, yeah, you were collecting when everybody was, and they were printed. Like there are 2 million of these same cards, so really none of them have value.
Yep.
So I ended up just wrapping them and giving them to my nephew for Christmas last year. And it's hilarious because he'll text me he'll have his dad text me occasionally, be like, Uncle Spencer, it's Teddy. Do you think these cards are worth anything yet? I'm like, well, you're 8, so just play the long game with them.
Right.
Just kind of be patient a little bit. All right, so did a little Utah Mammoth earlier to get you ready for the game tonight. Game 6 at the Delta Center. Of course, it's sold out. The secondary market's always tough. If you have an opportunity to get down there, I'm telling you, I've seen some pretty wild, hyperbolic takes, including from a media member who's been on market for like 40 years, that sent out a video after Game 4. Is like, this is the greatest sporting event we've ever had in Utah. Can we calm down a little bit? Like, we all have Mammoth fever. We all love that they're in the playoffs, and we all want them to win. Michael Jordan was here in 1997 for the most watched basketball game in the history of pro sports. Okay, no basketball game has been more widely viewed than Jazz Bulls 1998 when Michael hit the shot after stealing it from Carl. Okay, we've had the Olympics here, great college football games, and yeah, to say it's the greatest sporting event that we've ever had in the state, I don't know that I would go there. However, if you have a chance to get down there, you will be blown away at what Smith Entertainment Group has done with that building. They've done such a good job of making that a hockey venue because, look, my father was involved in the process of building the Delta Center, of course, the house that Larry Miller built. That building was built for basketball and basketball only. It's why concerts at the Delta Center were never that good because the sound quality is horrible. They want it to be loud. They want it to be loud, and they want the crowd to be heard, and it was built strictly for basketball. And I think what they've been able to do, at least from my vantage point, is adjust that building to make it a hockey facility, but it hasn't really diluted the basketball product outside of the team being horrible at basketball, which is a problem. The building's a little bit colder, but ultimately I don't know that sightlines have been affected. So if you have a chance to get down there, you're going to be blown away. Their game ops team is really good. I get there early because prior to the Mammoth taking the ice, at least for Game 3, the building was full. Everybody was waving their towels. The music selection is good. And it's a great vibe. Great vibe in that building. So we'll see what happens tonight. If the Mammoth win, we will have a Game 7 in Las Vegas on Sunday. And hopefully that's not a super late tip. Okay, a couple things here. We do have a PGA Tour event going on right now. So let's get you a little leaderboard update, courtesy of our friends at Uinta Golf. At Uinta Golf, it's the new Ping Scottsdale TEC putters. The new mallets introduce IQ alignment technology inspired by eye-tracking research. Each model improves your focus to sink more putts. Visit Uinta Golf by worldwidegolf.com. Get there. Our PGA update right now. The PGA Tour is at the Cadillac Championship in Miami, Florida. Cameron Young, telling you, man, this kid's going to win a major sooner rather than later. Cam Young is your leader, and he has a 4-stroke lead. So Cam Young hasn't taken the course today, but after he's through 15. My bad. I carded a 64 yesterday. He's 4 under today, so he's 12 under for the tournament. Nick Taylor and Alex Smalley are 8 under. Gary Woodland continues to play good golf. He's at 7 under par, so he's 4th. Tied for 5th, Alex Fitzpatrick. What a cool story that is. Taylor Pendrith and Siwoo Kim. And Scotty Scheffler, because, of course, Scotty didn't play well yesterday, but he's a cool 5 under through 15. Now he's moved up 22 spots to 6 under par. Jordan Spieth had a really good day yesterday, not so good today. He's 1 over through 13, but he's also at 6 under par. So some good stuff there. Tony Finau is not in the field. I don't think so, at least. I'm concerned about our local golf star. I'm just going to keep his tour card. I don't know if he's hurt. Not in the field, Tony Finau. So PGA Tour stuff. We're going to bring in Paul Pugmire coming up in just a little bit. Our friend and legend, Ron McBride, the Ron McBride Foundation, presents The Head and the Heart. It's their 15th anniversary tour, Saturday, August the 22nd at the Utah State Fair Park. Text in to win tickets now, 877-353-0700. That's 877-353-0700. You know what we'll do? In honor of what we were just talking about, collecting cards and memorabilia. What's your favorite piece of sports memorabilia you have, or your favorite card? At your disposal, 877-353-0700 to win tickets to the Head and the heart. And finally, before we catch a break, to welcome in Pablo Mastroianni coming up on the other side to do a little RSL. I want to tell you about my friends at IFA. There's nothing like taking in a game on a sunny afternoon. You can get your field ready this summer with IFA's 4+ lawn care program. It's a blend especially formulated for Utah soils. Get healthy, lush, dark green grass this summer, by making your power move today at IFA. All right, we got 2 hours down. We got 2 hours in the books. Don't forget tonight some really good playoff basketball and, of course, playoff hockey. But RSL is in action coming up tomorrow. It is a 2:45 start time for the TV window because Fox is going to have it in addition to Apple TV. Our guy Brian Dunseth on the call tomorrow with Max Breda. So we'll bring in Pablo coming up on the other side. Pablo Mastroianni, head coach of RSL. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go on a Friday edition of The Drive. And it's always so good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. RSL with an early kick tomorrow, 2:45 Mountain Time. Television purposes, Fox is televising the game, as is Apple TV. Max brought us Brian Dunseth, our guy on the call tomorrow. Next guest, you know him, you love him, head coach of RSL, Pablo Mastroeni on a lovely Friday afternoon. Happy Friday, Pablo. How are you, bud?
Happy Friday, Spence. Doing well, man. Just trying to enjoy this beautiful day, man.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. Have you been able to get out and swing the sticks yet this year? I know you're rather busy.
I have not. It's been craziness, at least out here in Utah. I've gone back to Arizona a couple times to see the family and played a couple there, but I've yet to break them out here in Utah.
Okay. Well, I know you're busy with, your job of coaching a soccer team, but it's good to have some balance, pal. You got to get out and enjoy yourself a little bit, yeah?
Yeah. Let me know when you're free, man. I heard you and Trey have been out there knocking around.
We have, but he's a cheater, so I need somebody else to play with because it gets exhausting.
Cheat like he's really good or cheat like he's actually cheating?
Oh, no, both. I mean, the scores are atrocious. He claims he's like a 7.7 handicap. It's like insulting the way he approaches this stuff. It's insulting. No comment there on Trey?
No comment.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me crack on Trey, and you can maintain the relationships.
There you go.
All right, look, man. I don't want you to get fined, so do not get fined. But I will take the opportunity to tell our listeners you can go watch our Talkin' Real show that we did last night, KUTV.com on KMYU. Pablo, Dunny outlined 8 different calls this year that have either gone directly against you or you have not received the benefit of the doubt to get a call that should have been made. And look, I'm not a blame the refs guy, and I've always been one that believes, okay, maybe at some point it's going to even itself out. From my vantage point, it does not seem to be evening itself out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And obviously, my conversations with the players are always about controlling the controllables. And the one, the few people you can't control are the referees, right? So that goes out the window real quick. But I just think that, what happened at the weekend, is a bit of a shame. And again, it just breeds a lot of doubt as to how things are going. And that's when I think when you start to see, the biases that maybe referees have towards one club that they don't have towards the other one, and that all the speculation. And I think it just starts with not making the best call available. And I was on a call with the head of referee and a member of the MLS competition committee for an hour and a half, reviewing that game against LA Galaxy, and both of them said we're appalled that the decision wasn't made for a red card in your guys' favor. And so we just go down this road where it's like it's great, they've acknowledged that it was a mistake, it should have been given, but again, we don't get any points for that. And obviously we talk about the margins in this league, how thin they are, and everything matters, right? And even those things that you can't control, sometimes whether it's fortune or a referee decision, will impact the result of the game, right? And so, but again, I think it's and we presented a bunch of cases that they're kind of sifting through and looking at and wondering what they could do differently. And I think the biggest thing, Spence, is they talk about managing the heat of the game, and so what happens in the first minute isn't necessarily reflective of the way the game is going to be officiated in the 80th minute. And I think therein lies a big an issue where because early on in games I always tell the fourth official, I said, well, that's a yellow card there, so anytime anyone touches us from the back, it's going to be a yellow card, correct? And he says, well, maybe. And so the best way to eliminate a lot of these situations is to referee the game the same way, whether it's minute 1 or minute 90. And that way everyone understands what the standards are. And it's a lot like they made this new rule about the substitutions where you need 10 seconds to get off the field, right? And so, of course, initially people are going to get, a 1-minute penalty for not coming off the field in 10 seconds. Well, before you know it, everyone will just behave as if that was never a rule and jog off the field in 10 seconds, where, 2 years ago, people are taking 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And so when it becomes the norm, when the game becomes is officiated in a consistent manner from minute 1 to minute 90, I think to see more consistency in the decisions, and it'll allow the players and the coaches to understand what the expectations are. And I think oftentimes what leaves a lot of fans, coaches, and players kind of, confused is that, well, that was a foul, but that one wasn't. And now it's two different teams, and it's two different times in the game. Obviously, like everyone else, they're going to make mistakes. The league and the referee, pro referee committee, held their hand up, but it really doesn't do anything for us as far as results. And I'd like to think that with 50 minutes to play, we would have found a way to get a better result in the game against LA.
Did you get an explanation for the non-red on Victor? Because that, I don't know how you don't see the call, and then you'll have to help me understand whether or not that's reviewable with VAR, and then upon further review, how you don't overturn it. It made no sense to me.
Yeah, no, that's one that I'm referring to is that call there.
Okay.
And they said it was a complete, it was a mistake, and the fact that VAR didn't send him to the monitor was also a mistake. So rarely are you going to have two of those where the referee and the VAR, because again, the VAR officials are located somewhere in Dallas, right? They're not even on the site. They're looking at this game completely unemotional, and they should be able to say, like, listen, you got to go to the monitor and look at that. But he did not do that. So what they were talking about to us was like they're constantly training the VAR officials along with the field officials, and this is part of the growing pains that we're getting, and it is what it is. And so I think it's great that they were transparent and open and honest, but I think the tough thing that will never change is how many points we didn't get because it's such a big moment in the game.
Is there anything in place that, these officials can be held accountable in some way, shape, or form? In other sports, there are grading systems and guys will be taken off assignments. And, the other thing that I've always said, I'll get your thoughts on this, a coach will make the wrong sub, a player will miss a chance or have a horrible tackle. Mm-hmm. And we in the media, after games, stick a mic in your face to ask you what happened. Why not make them available? Like make them accountable for the mistakes they make, like we do with coaches and players.
Yeah. So to be fair, they shared with us that there is accountability, and that they were going to take the necessary action, which has to do with assignments. Obviously, they didn't get in the weeds with that, but there is accountability. And I think the reason why they don't make him referees available is per CBA with their situation with the league, right? So pro is an independent organization, and so the deal that they can't make it public. So all these things would be really would be interesting. It would, and again, I don't think any referee intentionally makes wrong decisions, or at least that's the way my heart is at the moment. Is everyone makes mistakes, and to hold them to the stake would be it would be tough every game, because there's going to be calls that obviously are going to be big calls missed or made that maybe weren't accurate at the time, and so I think as long as and they said like there's serious consequences in the referee world that we're not privy to, and they get graded every game. So they broke down all the things. So, to be fair, the head of pro, Mark Geiger, and gentlemen from the league at the competition committee did a really good job explaining, so that we at least know there's something going on, and it's not just a slap on the wrist and like get on with it, go to the next game. So, and they attributed a lot like players not performing well, and Pablo, you don't light them on fire. You keep working with them. You believe in them, but they're going to make mistakes. So it's a tough pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, we got to move on. And to be fair, Spence, there's a few things in that LA game that weren't up to our standards, and that's what we really turned the screws on this week to make sure that we're prepared for the game tomorrow.
Did you get a yellow card? Did I see that right?
Yeah, I got a yellow card, and
okay.
the thing. the thing that's what I didn't ask, but I wanted to ask is like, can you rescind my yellow card? Because what I was arguing for, you guys now agree with. So how does that work? And it just doesn't work like that. They can't rescind the yellow card. So, but at least it's out there. It's open. Everyone knows that it was, and so hopefully, like you said, you expect things to even out in the end, and that's what we're crossing our fingers and just, again, going back to controlling what we can.
Would you please say on this show, word for word, exactly what you said to the official?
Yeah, right.
All right. One more thing on this, then we'll move off it. I don't even work for the team anymore. I'm not a coach or a player. I'm not over there. And it's so maddening to have this happen over and over and over. You're MLS lifer. You played in this league in the early years. You've seen the league grow. I mean, whoever thought that Lionel Messi would be playing soccer in Sandy, Utah? Right. We have owners now who are billionaires willing to spend money in a way that we didn't used to have. We have soccer-specific stadiums. We have good TV deals. It feels like the one thing that isn't growing is the officiating, the officials. Like, help me understand. Like, are we not doing a good enough job of training them? Can we not afford the best ones? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that's again. One of the things that was interesting in the call was, the head of Pro invited both Kurt and myself out to one of their training camps to kind of see how rigorous it is. And I was just like, yeah, if I with my time off, I think the last thing I want to do is go to a referee training camp. But I think Kurt's going to be free to attend one of these so that he can kind of check out what they're doing. But yeah, again, I don't know what the right answer is, Spence. I don't know, but it does feel like, again, the game's gotten faster, right? The players in the modern game are so much more athletic than they were when I was playing. As a whole, I'd say in general, the game just moves quicker. It's more physical than maybe it was, and so like all these calls are crucial, right? And the other part too is it changes momentum. I think when big calls are missed that are obvious to the players, the fans, and the spectators watching, then it starts to cause frustration. And then without knowing, that missed call or that call that wasn't correct that the referee made affects the momentum of the game because it affects the psychology of the players. And we can talk about, hey, control the controllables, but at the end of the day, we say that all the time, but we're human. And when it happens once, twice, three times in the same game, then you start to think, wait a second, man, this just isn't right. So I agree, and I think they agree as well that the refereeing has to get better along with everything else that the league is doing. They weren't hiding away from that. But how you go about doing that I have no idea. That's someone that's a lot smarter than me to figure out.
I'm just picturing you like telling your wife, like, hey, I've got a free few days, but I'm going to go ahead and go down and check out the official training camp to see how these refs are trained. I appreciate the ask, but I can't imagine you ever saying yes to that.
Yeah, and that's why I offered Kurt, because I think Kurt has, some good ideas about how we can continue to improve that aspect of the game. And so why piggyback with Kurt when he's got all the bright ideas in that arena, So I'll probably take my time and spend some time with the family or something like that. But yeah, it was a nice ask. It was a good offer.
That's a very kind way of saying, hell no, Kurt, you're going. All right.
You got this one, bud.
All right. So let me ask you about the Caliscan extension. Then we'll get back to some of the stuff. So some news came down yesterday. Noel Caliscan extended through 2029. What do you make of that? And how have you seen him grow in the couple of years you've coached him?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. One, again, I think he was a player that, did his time. We brought him over from Portland, was kind of in between the first team and the second team there, and then brought him over, and he just kind of went all in, just not training a whole lot with the first team, but just focused in on the Monarchs and really focused in on his craft. And he just head down, worked his tail off. And when he started coming up to the first team in training, I just saw a really cerebral player, a really smart, intelligent positioning, the communication piece. was there. So just had all these like intangibles that you look for in a quality midfielder. And I remember last year in preseason, we were in Santa Barbara, and he pulled me aside, and he said, like, what's the plan for me this year? And I said, well, what do you want the plan to be for you this year? Because like we can all have plans for people, but and again, like the little things he does, oftentimes, that position is a position that isn't spotlighted a whole lot unless you're scoring those Beckerman bangers. But he is really the glue to our team in the middle of midfield. He connects our attack, he connects our defense, and he communicates extremely well. And so I couldn't be more happy for a young man that's really had to, and that the same could be said of really all the guys that we have. They just they graft on another level. There's a real commitment to their craft, right? They're studying the game, whether it's Gozo, Diego, Aiden, Luka Moisa. These guys are all students of the game. And so I think it's, for me, anytime a player that's come through the system that gets an extension is really a validation of not only the club, but really of the individual character that we have at this club. And that speaks volumes for me.
All right, let's go back to, and we can rope in Miami if you want, although we kind of already talked about that, a couple world-class goals, but it is 2 straight L's, Pablo, which doesn't happen much in your tenure, only 19 times, which is pretty wild in nearly 200 games. So you've always really found the ability to get your club to bounce back. But are you seeing anything from 30,000 feet that's a little bit concerning as of now?
No, I'd say the biggest thing, Spence, especially in these last 2 games, was, for me, it was more the lack of playing leading up to this game, this week of games, where before the San Diego game, we hadn't had a game, and then we had a game, and then we had another week off. And so I think to get rhythm to go into these 3-game weeks, you got to be playing consistently. And I think the lack of, training and not training, but lack of games leading up to that 3-game week was really a big part of that. I think each individual game has its own events that could have steered the game one way or the other. Like I said, the first half of the LA game, we were really poor in our build, gave away sloppy passes, and gave LA a lot of opportunities in transition. And that's not characteristic of our team. So that speaks to me a lot about fatigue. And then the Miami game was the same thing. And what's really interesting, I was talking about today, there's a moment in the Miami game in the first 5 minutes where, Sergi had a great opportunity in front of goal from like 6 yards out, which typically it goes in the back of the net. And then you think about, if that ball goes in, would we have 2 W's right now? Right? Because again, when you lose that game against Miami, it's such an emotional dump because of the lead up to it. The game that we had before, and then the LA game as well. Like now we got to go on the road and we got to take care of business. And so the weight of that moment could have spun us the other way. So there's definitely some things that we need to that we need to continue to work on. But I think in those last 2 games we've given up. We've been called for 2 PKs, 1 free kick that scored, and then 1 banger in the run of play. So there's a lot of things that are just kind of random at the moment. But as we continue to move forward, I think we'll be able to see better trends as we head towards another 3-game week here moving forward. Jason
popped on last week, and of course, even when I'm trying to wax positive, Jay will remind me of things that need to be better, and that's fine. That's how Jason is wired. He pointed out no clean sheets so far. That trend continues. I don't feel like it's on Rafa Cabral at all. I mean, I feel like he's been awesome. Any concern there? Breakdowns in the back? Anything there?
Well, again, I think, like I said, every game's a bit different. Like Rafa's been amazing, by the way, and I'd even say that he's been better for us this year than he was last year.
Yeah,
when he was literally standing on his head. And so 2 PK goals this last week are tough. 1 free kick goal, he put it in the corner. So we're up against a lot of like things that aren't going our way, and then the other team doing a great job of bearing their chances, right? So I think the shutout thing becomes an issue and this is why you always want a team that can shut teams out, is because there's going to come a time where the offense isn't firing in all cylinders. It happens, right? And so then what do you have left? You need solid defending to keep you in games for one moment, and you don't know when that moment comes. And so in the first part of the season, we've had goals flowing, a lot of goals getting scored, and we've also been conceding. So we haven't felt that yet. But the moment the goals start drying up, then we'll see it live. So it's something that we've talked about. And again, the only phase I would say that we've struggled in isn't when we're organized defensively. It's when we give the ball away cheaply, when we actually have possession of the ball, that it's been the most difficult to defend. And that's not really typical of us. And I don't expect to have, more PKs called every week. So you take all that together and I agree, we have to find a way to shut teams out while continuing to score goals. And that's always the ideal situation. But if you're not scoring goals, you got to make sure that you're instilling games by not giving away cheap goals.
What sort of, complications or just dynamic does a matinee game bring? From a viewer's perspective, it's quite lovely. But from a coach's and a player's perspective, is it preferred? Is it a little bit different? What does that do for game day prep?
No, I don't think anyone says anything. I actually think the guys prefer it because then they have an evening with the family and friends. And as far as the body's concerned, we train every day at 11. This game's a little bit later than that, but I think the last game that we had, was SKC at home, and the guys were bright, they're aggressive, and so I don't think it changes anything as far as our preparation for this game.
So tell me a bit about Portland. I mean, they're near the bottom of the table, but I'm looking at their schedule. They've got a couple of pretty solid wins over the past two or three games, including one over LAFC. So what makes them dangerous? What do you have to watch out for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that, they have their front four are on par with any other team in this league. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is how dangerous most attacking groups are in this league. San Diego, Portland, Seattle. It's just who shows up on the day. So those four up front that they have are really dynamic. They're great in transition. And one of the trends we've seen with these guys is they really commit to getting a lot of numbers in the box in the attack. In other words, they don't, once they break a line, they're going forward and they're flooding the box and putting it in the box. And so we've got to do a great job of, one, negating crosses, and two, continuing to do a good job in our box defending, which has been really good this year. So, defensively, they're a team that like to get after it. So the onus is on us to really try to exploit the spaces that they leave open. And then, have another good performance from the guys up front where, they're creating chances and finishing. But like I say every time, when I talk to people about MLS, it's a league where anyone can win on any given day, and the onus is for us to make sure we take care of our home business and come out and get the fans excited about watching the way we play, but more importantly, being that 12th man force tomorrow. We got a group that's more or less healthy, of course, outside of Emeka. Yeah. Everyone's coming to health. Engel will be joining the group. He's been out for, I think, 10 days now. He'll be joining the group early next week. We got Kobe Henry, who's been training quite a bit, and Juan Arias is possibly playing with the Monarchs this weekend to get his first game in what may be like 4 or 5 months. So everyone's on the mend. Everyone's moving in the right direction. So pretty soon we'll have some tough decisions to make, even for a 20-man roster for a weekend.
Before I say you, Lou, speaking of tough decisions, for the first time it is on the record, and it's not breaking news, that Gozo wants to play in Europe because everybody wants to do that, right? And so there's this permeating storyline going on about whether or not that will happen coming up in the summer. And I guess I didn't know this, but I guess a player from Chicago was purchased by a club that's interested in Gozo for $15 million. And so Dunny was kind of pontificating on, okay, if he went for $15 million, the conversation has to start there. I'm sure that there's a number that you guys have to say yes to. I know that's not necessarily in your silo. And then there's constantly conversations with Diego. If he makes the World Cup team and plays well, what does that do for his bottom line? Just how are you kind of handling these rumors with two of your bright young players?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough. And at the end of the day, I think that's where Kurt comes in and he's done a really good job of, making sure that, again, I think there's always a fair, like you said, a fair value in the market. And so all that has to take place before, rumors are rumors, where there's smoke, there's fire. So there's obviously a lot of interest. Gozo's had some conversations with clubs, but my conversation with Gozo is if you want to get there, then the most important time is here, right? Like you got to keep doing the business because again, the soccer game is very fickle. And he's been great, and Diego Luna's been great. And so I think the most important thing is, stay humble, stay hungry, and we all want nothing more than every player to reach the highest levels and reach their dreams. And there's a lot of stuff that goes in between them being here and them being somewhere else. And so while all that noise is taking place, the most important thing is that they're helping their club be the best club that we can be.
All right, buddy. I appreciate the time. We'll hope for at least even officiating tomorrow, and I'll be pulling for you as always. Go get all three, okay?
Let's go. All right, Spence. Thanks, bud.
All right, Pablo Mastroretti, RSL early kick, 2:45 tomorrow. Let me see here if they're saying tickets are still available. You can go to rsl.com. Oh, it is Star Wars night. Look at this. RSL Portland, it is officially the Star Wars match. Dude, those nerds are going to be so pumped.
It's May the 4th or whatever. Is that the thing?
Oh. May the 4th.
Not.
May the 4th be with you.
Right.
It's literally May 2nd.
Right.
But is that why they're doing it? Because it's tied into that?
I think so. I think it was on May the 4th at one point.
Dude, there's
more of a Cinco de Mayo guy here.
There's this group of like nerds who love Star Wars and soccer. Tomorrow's a big day for a lot of the nerds.
There is a overlap.
Oh yeah,
nothing wrong with it.
Oh,
for some reason there is a little bit of an overlap. Like I don't run into a bunch of football guys that love Star Wars. It's just it's different, and I'm saying football guys,
right.
Not football.
Yeah, and look, I don't use the term nerd in a derogatory way. They run the world,
right.
And a lot of them are doing great things for front offices and sports.
Not derogatory.
Teach their own.
But yeah, there is some sort of connection there.
Yeah, I just pulled up the RSL website, and looks like Diego Luna is dressed. I'm so bad at this. I'll reiterate that I loved Star Wars, and then I turned 12 and moved on. I saw the...
Who is he dressed as?
Hold on, I'm going to guess. Because I've only seen, and I know every time I say this, the nerds get mad. I've only seen the three original Star Wars movies. And to me, that's 1, 2, 3 in chronological order. But apparently it's not, because there's been so many movies and spinoffs and whatever that now the three Star Wars movies that I loved as a kid are not 1, 2, and 3. They're actually 4, 6, or whatever the hell.
Uh-huh.
But Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi are the only three Star Wars things I've ever seen in my life. So I'm going to go ahead and take a guess. I feel like Gozo is definitely Harrison Ford's character.
Luke?
No. Like the Han Solo.
Han Solo, there you go.
I feel like Gozo's definitely Han Solo. I think Sanabria is a stormtrooper. I don't know. Diego is front and center, but that looks more like a Raiders of the Lost Ark character. That doesn't look like a Star Wars guy.
Aren't the stormtroopers all white?
Don't be racist, Porter.
They're...
Oh, you mean like their robot costume?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
He's one of the guys that's a pilot.
Yes, that's right. But I don't know what you call them.
Astronaut.
No. Gozo is definitely Han Solo. Diego is front and center, but again, it doesn't look like a Star Wars character. And then you're right. Sanabria is one of the dudes who flies the jets and shoots at the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the extent of my knowledge.
And I've seen a Star Wars movie. I will say my former roommate got me to watch the series they started putting out recently.
Mm-hmm.
I was so lost.
Have you ever seen the Triumph the Insult Comic Dog at the Star Wars premiere bit? Conan, you should look it up. We should actually play sound from it. You should look it up. Triumph the Insult Comic Dog. He goes to this Star Wars premiere and just roasts these virgins that are going to hang out and watch a Star Wars movie. It is absolutely hilarious.
I'll check that out.
You should. All right. Shout out to our friends at IFA. Any drive to the basket begins with the first step. On the court, that's the ultimate power move. IFA's Step 1 crabgrass preventer and lawn food is the first choice to give your yard the healthy, thick green look you admire. The neighbors will be green with envy. Shop IFA online at ifa.coop or stop by one of their neighborhood stores today. The PGA Tour is in Miami for the Cadillac Championship. Round 2 is in progress. Cameron Young has the lead. We'll do a little PGA Tour. The Saudi Public Investment Fund has pulled their backing for Live Golf. Are they going to survive? And the latest on the local golf scene as well. So Paul Pugmire joins us coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. PGA Tour this week is at the Cadillac Championship. Give you a leaderboard update coming up in just a little bit. Let's see. Cameron Young continued. Man, the kid is playing great golf. It's at the Trump National Doral course in Miami. 9 players elected not to play. Don't know if that's because of the name of the golf course or they're just taking time off. Paul Pugmire, Friday afternoon. What's up, dude? How are you?
Doing great, Spence. Nice to talk to you.
Good to have you with us, as it always is. So let's see. Let's give them credit. Golfmonthly.com. 10 big names missing the Cadillac Championship. Is any of this political, as far as you know?
Oh, if it is, they're not saying it, but it would not surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a fence to climb over for a great many people, and I totally understand that.
Okay. Tony is not in the field. Do you know why?
Well, he's not qualified. This one's easier and tougher to swallow, easier to identify and tougher to swallow. Tony has not played well this year, and this is an elevated event, and he simply doesn't have the qualifications in the tour to be in this field.
So where are we at with him? What is he going to be playing in this year, and what does he have to do to get back to be, playing most weekends?
Make more birdies.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound snarky, but he simply needs to play better. Now, there is one particular thing that a pattern that has emerged in his play this year. He keeping in mind he's coming back from foot surgery, and man, that can be so difficult for any athlete in any sport, right? How important are the feet in any sport? In golf, what it translates to is certainly getting power out of the ground, but more than that, it's 4 days in a row. And Tony has not been able to put together 4 days in a row yet this year. He's had flashes. He's put up some good numbers, some mid-60s numbers where we go, yeah, that's the Tony Finau I know. But then he chases it with something bigger. And is it a question of not having his – is there a pain issue? Is there a function issue? Is there something left over from the injury and the surgery? I don't know. Is it a fatigue issue where he hasn't built back the stamina around the injured tissue and the surgery? I don't know that either. I've mentioned this before. The last time I saw him, he was limping noticeably. He was in very high spirits and speaking very optimistically, but you could see that his gait was effective. You translate that over 4 days, on the world's toughest golf courses, and that could be what's behind what's going on with Tony. But the reality is, to answer your question, what he needs to do is put together 4 days, 4 good rounds in a row the same week at one of the tournaments he does have qualifications for, and that will move him up.
Do you know which tournaments he does have clearance to play? Because I'm not really sure how you figure that out.
Sure, it's what his status is on the tour, his rank status. I should have looked it up before coming on, but he's outside of the top 100, and you've got to be inside the top 100 to get into the elevated events. Inside the top 70, actually, to get into the elevated events.
He's 116, Paul.
Okay, well there we are. Okay, either way, and so thank you for that. That doesn't get you a tee time in this tournament, and it doesn't get you a tee time next week. And then the week after that is the PGA Championship. I haven't looked at his eligibility for that yet, but then after that we get into the into the regular events. Now there is one option in between this week and the PGA Championship, and that is what's called an alternate field event. And Brooks Koepka is playing in the alternate field event. Maybe first time in his life that he's done this kind of thing. But he is trying to play his way into the elevated events as well. In his case, it's, of course, a condition of his probationary status on the PGA Tour coming back from LIV. But maybe Tony will be pegging it in the alternate event next week. He's got to get starts, and he's got to get high finishes.
as I was reading about the field, there's this portion that talks about 4 sponsor exemptions, and apparently that's a rather controversial dynamic here. What are those sponsor exemptions? How do players get them, and why are some people not thrilled about it?
Sponsors exemptions have been a part of the PGA Tour for decades. It's a very common practice. Just a little reminder here locally, the organizers of the Bank of Utah Championship at Black Desert, they tend to give at least some of their sponsor exemptions to local players. Kihei Akina has played in this event a couple of times because he is is big news locally, and they're rewarding that and giving Kihei experience in that regard. The sponsors of a tournament put a great deal of time, effort, and money into making these tournaments happen. And one of the perks that the tour gives the sponsors for this is to say, you can invite a handful of players. The number's different at different tournaments, but let's say it's 4. You can invite 4 players to come and play in your tournament at your discretion. And it ends up being whoever they want it to be for whatever their reason is. And in the case of the elevated events, the controversy is that the elevated events don't have a cut, and so whoever is invited is guaranteed to play the weekend, therefore make a check, and the check they're going to make is elevated, to borrow a term. These are high dollar value tournaments, and so there's players who are trying so hard to play their way into these elevated events, to qualify for them, and to see 4 spots go to players who don't have the qualification but have whatever connection it is to the sponsors. That has caused some ill will and some hurt feelings.
Okay. All right, you mentioned Brooks Koepka, and we are going to talk about your favorite dynamic, which is Live Golf Folding, and what's next.
Love it. Yeah.
Look, since you and I last spoke, it's official that the Public Investment Fund is pulling its funding at the end of the year. There are rumors out there. They're trying to create a new board led by some investment bankers. Here's your problem. No one watches. It's not a for-profit entity. They've paid these golfers way too much money, and they can't sell TV rights because reruns of DuckTales gets more attention than Live Golf tournaments. There's not a pathway forward if they don't have the Live Golf bankroll, because I don't think any private equity guys want to invest in a product that's not going to make money. But of interest is what's next for the main guys, as we talked about last week, Rahm, DeChambeau, Cam Smith, others. I would imagine, and Spieth was asked about this, and I thought he handled it really well. I thought Scotty acted like a little bit of a grump, but really what is fascinating to me is there are players that sued the tour and dropped their membership. What happens with some of those guys? So just the latest, since we now know that funding is getting pulled, and what do you think happens with some of these other golfers?
Such a good question. And right now, nobody knows, unless perhaps it might be Brian Rolapp. And if Brian Rolapp knows, he's not saying. I do think that some of what's going on here is they want to let Tiger Woods get back into back from rehab, back into his life before they move too far forward. But that's me speculating that. Nobody is saying that out loud. So what becomes of these top players? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. There are a couple things we do know that have already happened. We do know that the tour has demonstrated a willingness to offer pathways for otherwise qualified, absolutely proven top-tier players. I'm talking about people who have won majors in the last 5 years. Now, keep in mind, that was offered to Bryson DeChambeau earlier this year, right around the first of the year. And we all knew at the time that he had sued the tour, and yet it still was offered to him. He didn't take it, so nobody was ever forced to live with it, but it was offered to him. The other pathway is clear and straightforward, and it is best exemplified, of course, with what Patrick Reed is doing, and that is go play your way on. There's a couple of pathways. You can play your way through the DP World Tour, the European Tour. You can go to the Korn Ferry Tour and play your way on there. You can go peg it in the Q School, play your way on there. There's absolute pathways to play your way to the PGA Tour. Go do them. Now, in the case of Patrick Reed, you're going to serve a 1-year suspension, 1 year calculated from the last live event you played up until you can play in a PGA Tour event. That will probably apply. There might be some fines associated with it. We'll wait and see. There were certainly fines associated with Brooks Koepka coming back, although not fines payable to the PGA Tour, fines imposed by the PGA Tour payable to charity. But those are the pathways that we have seen already. My best guess is that we will see some version of those, and there might be tiers. There might be different versions for different players. And the reality is Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Cam Smith are different from the rest of the players. But we just really don't know yet.
All right, since you had referenced Tiger, since you and I last spoke, of course, Tiger is away, and we're all hoping that he gets better and is back soon. But, of course, not in contention to be the next Ryder Cup captain. And so they go with Jim Furyk. And I guess one side of the conversation sounds like known commodity, player, assistant captain. And the other side of the conversation is when he was captain, we got our asses kicked in France. So where do you fall on those two sides?
I think we're all asking the wrong questions. We're asking which good old boy, great player at the end of his career should we honor with calling him captain for a couple of years, and the results don't matter. That is not the right question. The right question is, in today's world, how do you run a successful, high dollar value, high intensity, high attention sporting enterprise? And I think there are models for that in other sports, and I think golf has just plain not paid attention. Specifically, PGA of America, who owns the Ryder Cup, has not paid attention to what has worked in other sports. It drives me nuts. You can go on the PGA the PGA of America organizational chart, and you will not see an office, a division of the organization dedicated to the Ryder Cup. That is malpractice of the highest order, in my view. I cannot begin to comprehend why you would have a property this valuable and not dedicate high-end, highly successful, proven people to building that into the greatest thing it can be. And that is the question we should be asking, and we should be looking for proven leaders to get us out of this. Keep in mind, great leaders in other sports, Tommy Lasorda, Bill Belichick, Phil Jackson, they weren't the great players. They were the great leaders. That's who we need.
I wonder if you have any ideas, and attendant to the question, what can we learn? Like, Luke Donald is good at this. He just is.
Yeah.
What can we learn from the way the Europeans have approached this? Because they're smoking us like every cycle.
Well, first of all, the DP World Tour, who owns the European side of the Ryder Cup, they do have a dedicated, full-time, year-round office organization associated with running the Ryder Cup. Plus, they look long-term as well, right? These other great leaders in other sports I mentioned, Jackson, Belichick, Lasorda, they weren't one and done. They were there for the long haul. Luke Donald is there for the long haul. The tour, DP World Tour, the European side, is behind Luke Donald for the long haul. Luke is an interesting character. He did achieve world number one status, did so with consistent, excellent play, but he never was a major champion. He never was a dominant player. He had a very nice career, which is code for not great. And but he is among the very best leaders in sport, not in golf, in sport. And the European side recognizes that. I think they're going to ride him as long as he'll say yes.
Yeah, it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it.
All right, so this tournament that's going – actually, no, before we get there, I wanted to get your thoughts. I thought last week in doing this job, sometimes, you get a little bit jaded, but watching Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick win that tournament together last week, man, I don't know if it's because I have three brothers, but their parents were there. And, Alex was featured with Matt on one of the seasons of Full Swing on Netflix. And I was like, kind of felt bad for him. I mean, Matt's such an unbelievable player, maybe playing better than anyone else in the world right now. And Alex kind of came across as the little brother that's always trying to follow the big brother around and wants to be good at this, but didn't feel like, I never felt like he had the game to be good at it. But what a cool story to watch those two lift that trophy together last week.
It is a great story, and I think you should totally base your positive vibes on the fact that you've got great brothers. And I would just note here quickly that the highest order of golf is, we celebrate the great champions, and we love major championships, and we love superlative excellent play. But the highest order of golf is playing the game with people you love. And what is better than winning with people you love? I thought what happened at Zurich last week was just spectacular. And look, Matt Fitzpatrick is one of the best players in the world. Absolutely. He's ranked number 3 on the official world rankings right now, and that is no accident. But Alex is no slouch. He is already a winner on the DP World Tour. And look at him on the leaderboard in the top 10 on his first chance to play on the PGA Tour on his own merit, on a great, massive, incredibly difficult, historic golf course against a top-notch field. He's in the top 10 through the first 36. He is a legit player.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. I'm happy for the kid. 2-year exemption on the tour. All right, big week in local golf, Paul. So tell us what's coming up on the show tomorrow.
Well, it is college conference championship season. Both the Utes and the Cougars were at the Big 12 championship this last week. Both teams were kind of upper middle of the pack, kind of middling and disappointing. However, both of their horses, they ran. Kihei Akina finished second, and with BYU, Sergio Jimenez from the University of Utah finished third individually. It was really fun with that. Ashley Lamb, we're going to go to D2 up the street at Westminster. She just won the RMAC individual championship for the second year in a row. That's a hard thing to do. We're going to be talking about college championships, and we will be doing the show from the Oaks at Spanish Fork, where the Oaks Open is taking place.
All right, buddy. I appreciate the time as always. Have an excellent show tomorrow, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Spencer.
Paul Pugmire, Utah Golf Radio. You can hear it tomorrow on the radio station. Tune in. You went to golf. It's the new Ping Scottsdale TEC putters. The new mallets introduce IQ alignment technology inspired by eye tracking research. Each model improves your focus to sink more putts. Visit youintogolf by worldwidegolf.com. Get there. 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. We're going to do some NBA playoffs and So the PGA Tour's tournament, we were talking about this earlier with Paul, is being played at Trump's Golf Course in Miami. And it's a signature event worth $20 million, but 10 players have elected not to play. Paul said if it's political, nobody's saying anything. I was looking around, but here's the deal. We're going to play a little game, okay? Which of these golfers do you think it was political? Rory McIlroy, maybe. I'm going to go maybe Rory. Matt Fitzpatrick, maybe. Xander Schauffele, I'm going to go yes. I'm going to say yes with Xander. Ludwig Oberg, I'm going to say maybe. Robert McIntyre, I'm going to say maybe. Brooks Koepka, no. There's no way it's political for Brooks Koepka.
No, he'd be there.
Patrick Cantlay's a Trumper for sure.
The foreign guys, yet no real knowledge there. The other thing here is that political or not, there was a tie-in a lot with the live stuff and the Trump family and the golf courses. So this is something that it's not really a reach when you talk about how that intertwines with this world, because it was so very much a part of what was a golf league that tried to start up with all the Middle East funding.
Yeah, there's no way Cantlay's making a statement. Okay, in fact, I'd like to know where Patrick Cantlay was on January 6th. Wyndham Clark also feels like, I don't know, man. Maybe not all 3 times, but definitely 2.
Wyndham Clark.
Is this making you uncomfortable?
No, I just don't know where to go with it.
Okay. Just of all the 10 golfers, how many of them are making a statement? Actually, is just my question. Yeah, Cantlay has stopped the steal energy, dude. There's no way he's sitting out.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like golf is necessarily the sport where you're going to get a lot of that. Maybe
enough.
in tennis.
Man, our guy Tony Finau not even qualifying for these tournaments anymore. That's too bad.
Yeah.
All right, fun night of sports tonight. You've got 3 NBA playoff game 6s. Pistons Magic going on right now. Cavs Raptors going on right now. Lakers Rockets late night. Mammoth, 8 o'clock, drop of the puck. Porter, will we have a game 7 on Sunday in Vegas?
I think so. I hope so. I think the home ice advantage should favor the Mammoth, but that's been kind of a shot in the dark with this series. So I think that both the team and the Delta Center shows up tonight, and I think we get at least one more game.
There we go. Tusks up, baby. All right, have a great weekend, Porter. What are we doing on a Monday edition of the show?
On a Monday edition of The Drive, Tom Haberstroh stops by for your NBA Daily Assist. We'll get a standout from the weekend of RSL and Portland. Of course, as you mentioned, that matinee matchup between them. Our friend Matt Brown talking some college football and probably more so private equity and the like on that side. And we'll go from there, hoping for probably a Mammoth guest on a Monday.
There you go. So join us for that. Special thank you today to Dave McMiniman, Adrian Denny, Pablo Mastroeni, and Paul Pugmire for any of the sound you missed. Go to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Download the mobile app. Take us on the go. Then check out our podcast page. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Would appreciate your support over there if you'd subscribe to the show, rate the show, review the show, say nice things, and give us all the stars you can. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you on a Monday edition of The Drive. And as always, you can catch it right here on ESPN 700.